what's up, everyone? Thank you for joining today, our live stream. And I'm sorry that we missed out yesterday, but excited about being on here with you today. And I know there's been lots of activity in the comment section, and that's great. Love you being in the comment section. Do me a favor, go ahead and type in the comment section, where are you watching from? If you don't mind, I want to know where you are watching from. And then, yeah, love it. Love getting up to date with you. Evan, man, we have a lot to talk about. What do you think's been going on in this case?
Yeah, there's been a lot of information that Dog the Bounty Hunter has released, possible evidence that has been found that could be belonging to Brian Laundrie. And that's huge news because instead of being weeks behind him, they're now hours behind him. And so really the manhunt is on from here.
Manhunt's on. The dog is sniffing him out. I have a question going on as a poll in the comment section right now, and I would like you to answer. Is dog on the right scent? Yeah, dog's going to find him. No, the FBI is going to find him. Or no, ain't nobody going to find him. Okay? And so I think this is really good. And something, Evan, that I think is also interesting, this new development about Brian buying a phone on September 4th. Like after he came home, he went to AT&T, opened up a new account, and then purchased a new phone. Yeah,
it's crazy. That's part of some of the stuff that we were saying early on is do we think that maybe he had a burner phone? And during the police interaction, he kind of stated that either he didn't have a phone or he didn't have a phone on him. But then he pulled it out later in their interaction with the police officers, and now he's going and buying him another phone. It's kind of a little bit suspicious, and maybe his family was keeping him dialed in into
definitely what it seems like. Hey, let's go to this report from Good Morning America and just take a look. It's a brief overview of some of the new developments. Let's watch it and talk about it together.
Who vanished just days before her body was recovered. Police are now investigating a phone Laundrie brought before he disappeared, and Victor Akendo is in Miami Beach, Florida with the latest. Good morning, Victor.
Good morning, George. We are learning more about the timeline, but all of this new information leads to even more questions, like why did Brian Laundrie need that new phone, and why did he go camping with his parents just days after returning home without Gabby Petito?
2 weeks into the urgent search for Brian Laundrie, we're learning new details about what he was doing the days before he went missing. After returning home on September 1st without his girlfriend, Gabby Petito, Laundrie purchased a new cell phone at an AT&T store in Northport. The family's attorney would not say why Brian needed the new phone or what, if anything, happened to his old phone, but says that phone is now in FBI custody. The FBI also now in possession of surveillance video from the Laundrie family camping trip at Fort DeSoto Park. Brian and his parents spent 3 days at this campground in Pinellas County, Florida over Labor Day weekend.
Apparently, they were at the campground when we were there, and they were right next to us.
This Fort Myers family, who stayed in the adjacent campsite, possibly the last to see the Laundries all together.
They kept to themselves. They were there, and then they weren't.
The couple taking a closer look at their photos taken, one selfie capturing this. The man walking in the background, who they believe could possibly be Brian. All this just days before Petito would be reported missing.
If somebody I knew was missing, I wouldn't be going camping.
The Laundrie family attorney says that Brian's parents did not help him flee. There was a federal warrant for Brian Laundrie's arrest. Michael?
New twist every day, Victor. Thank you so much.
I mean, that's absolutely right. New twist every day. And Evan, what do you think about that family that's camping? They go back and look at their pictures, and when they scroll sort of to the back of their pictures, they're like, Brian Laundrie's walking around in the background.
Sorry, I was muted, but yeah, it's absolutely insane. Just the idea that there are pictures of Brian Laundrie, and we know that at least from a couple days ago that he was alive. And Tyler, I just sent you a tweet from Brian Enton, and it states that there was the police officers came to Brian Laundrie's house 2 days before Gabby Petito was reported missing, and both the reports say that the problems were settled.
Wow. I think that's interesting that the problems were settled, but I wonder what those problems were. So we have a public service call from the Northport police that they were brought in on September 10th, and then again on later on September 10th. Again, they were called in. Who made the calls? Like, who was calling in and making these reports is what I'm wondering. And how did the police determine the problem was settled? Were they saying, is Brian missing? And then he turned out not to be missing? Was it a call from Gabby's family?
It is. It's really bizarre. And let's just talk about a little bit about everything that's went on at the Brian Laundrie's house today. The FBI was at his house earlier today. I didn't really get to follow that too much. What was it for? Was it for searching his camper? Or
yeah, so the FBI showed up at the house today, and I think that's a very interesting thing that happened. They showed up at the house, and they came, and we know that they took some supplies. I'm going to put that a live feed earlier of them coming into the house. So they came in there, they took some supplies out of the house, and they also searched the camper. And that goes back to one of the original questions that so many people were having. So many people were saying, like, why on earth are they not searching this camper? The camper sitting out there in the yard. The police have been out there the entire time, and there hasn't been anybody searching it. We know it. And then we get Dog the Bounty Hunter on the scent. And when Dog the Bounty Hunter gets on the scent, we immediately then are able to see he finds a lead at Fort DeSoto Park, and that lead includes now a picture of possibly Brian walking in the background. And so the FBI makes a decision to finally search the camper. And hey, Miller Owl Studio, I want to just shout you out. Thank you for the super chat. You are our first super chat ever. Today is the first time we're ever able to have super chats. And so thank you guys, especially Miller Owls. You're our first ever. We're going to remember this forever, this moment of you doing that. And so that's sort of the rundown on that, Evan.
Yeah, and I know that last night they had a really busy day on the islands of Fort DeSoto, and Lisa Chapman, she was posting all throughout the day, trying to really get some interest onto the island.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they found was a crushed up monster can, which they believe could be Brian Laundrie's. And I know that there have been some pictures of a possible monster can inside of Brian Laundrie's mom's purse one day, and now they're finding it on the island.
Well, let's go ahead and play this video from the New York Post. It's them. They're out there searching. It says Fox News followed Dog the Bounty Hunter to Shell Island on his hunt for the fugitive Brian Laundrie, which is something we knew. And then he came across a fresh campsite. That's an interesting fact, too. There's a fresh campsite there. And then they found this can of Monster Energy Ultra Gold. And so he set up a home base in Florida. I think he set it up outside of Marco Island. And then he made his way up north, about 75 miles north to Fort DeSoto Park, where they know the family was camping at just before Laundrie went missing. And then the family attorney, Stephen Bertolino, is sort of disputing the claims. He said they weren't there till the 8th, but when we look at the public records, we realize that they were there to the 8th. So this is interesting feedbacks, interesting developments. There's a lot of really good things. Talking about, hey, thank you, Kathy, for the super sticker. We appreciate your support. Lots of good chats coming in. Thank you guys for sending in the chats. Hey, if you don't mind too, hitting the like button. There's 7,000 people on. If you hit the like button, that really helps us out. It gets us out into the YouTube algorithm, and that really helps us out. So if you guys don't mind, hitting subscribe or hitting that like button. So Evan, what do you make of that can? Do you think it was Brian? Some people in the chat have been saying, well, it's just speculation. Let's quit talking about it. Like, we have a comment right now that says, let's move on from the monster can. Is this a big deal or not a big deal?
I mean, at this time, I don't know if we really know. I think it's odd that they found it in the places they did, where they were searching. It's not where normally people would be going. And so I think that it's a little odd that it didn't look like it had very much exposure to the weather at this time. It looked fairly new. And the fact that the dog was able to pick up the scent and find it,
right.
that's a big deal.
Right. And so I want to go to there's an FBI agent who just came out with a statement saying she thinks that Brian Laundrie is still alive. So I'm going to play that for everybody, and then we get the feedback together and talk about it.
You thought Brian Laundrie was alive. Today, do you still think Brian Laundrie's alive?
Yes. I
And
still
why?
think he is alive. I think he's alive because I don't think someone with his personality and with everything they have done to date that they would do for somebody who is not alive. Let me give you some examples. First of all, as I mentioned, they have retained an attorney to get them through this process. Number two, I don't see the Laundries out frantically looking for their son. Obviously, they know the Bureau is looking. They are doing nothing, and their whole demeanor is not the demeanor of frantic parents concerned that their son is dead somewhere.
Last week when I talked to you, you said you thought Brian Laundrie was alive. Today, do you still think Brian Laundrie's alive?
Yes, I
And
still
why?
think he is alive. I think he's alive because I don't think someone with his personality and with everything they have done to date that they would do for somebody who is not alive. Let me give you some examples. First of all, as I mentioned, they have retained an attorney to get them through this process. Number two, I don't see the Laundries out frantically looking for their son. Obviously, they know the Bureau is looking. They are doing nothing, and their whole demeanor is not the demeanor of frantic parents concerned that their son is dead somewhere.
Last week when I talked to you,
So I know I played that twice, but she had a really good point that I wanted us to make sure that we heard. She was saying these parents are not acting suspicious. They're not acting as if anything happened. Evelina, that's a great question. Are they going to evacuate the campsite? They definitely should. And the thing about the monster can that we don't know was, like, it's possible that I know they're using dogs, scent dogs, to go and find, like, the trail, right? And so it's possible that the monster can was linked to Brian from the dogs. It doesn't mean it's super accurate, but it is possible. And so I don't know if they're going to evacuate the campsite, but it's a certain plausible thing. Okay.
Yeah, and one thing that the people in the comments have been saying is that they should be able to pull DNA or something off that can to be able to tell if maybe it was Brian's.
So Matt Bowman asked this question, keep up the true news. Do you think his Mustang was parked there to give him time to be picked up by a friend? I have been saying this since day one. You can go on. The first time I ever was on a stream before I ever did my own, I was on the stream of Popcorn Planet, and he allowed me to be on a stream, and I said this exact thing. That Mustang was parked at the Carlton Reserve, in my opinion, as a big decoy so that other people along the way would be distracted about what was actually going on. And so absolutely 100% fact, okay? 100% fact, in my opinion. I'm not going to say 100% fact. 100% opinion in my mind, but it's the most plausible. What do you think, Evan?
Yeah, I think that it really was just there to be a distraction. I think that them putting it there really just gave them time to prove maybe the parents to prove an alibi or something. I don't know. But I think it was definitely thought out between him and the parents to have an idea, a better idea of how he's going to escape.
Elizabeth says, I don't think Brian has any friends. I think that's totally plausible. It doesn't seem like he has any friends. There certainly hasn't been anybody standing up for his character during this process. Nobody's standing up and saying, look at the character of Brian. He was a good person. He attended church with us. None of that's happened at all. Vontastic Views has this question. He's in an underground cave. Totally possible. I would not be surprised in the least if he's found a place underground he could hide. What do you think, Evan? Is he possibly in an underground cave?
I think that early on, maybe he was just hiding out as was on the island, trying to stay away from people and everything like that. And this is kind of what the Dog the Bounty Hunter was saying, that he was moving at night to where he couldn't be seen, and moving whenever campers have went home and stuff like that. But now that the pressure's on him, I can see him starting to get creative of where he's hiding at.
Sheila says this, I wonder if that September 10th 911 call was when the parents realized that something had happened. And I thought that too. I'm like, maybe the parents freaked out because Brian had told them the truth, and then this is what happened. Like, maybe the parents freaked out and then they sort of dipped into this. So we want to be able to take your guys' calls and allow you to join the stream and ask some questions in just a minute too. So hold on for that, and we'll put the link in the comment, or you can email press@tylerfeller.com with your question. And if it's a great question, we'll send you the link. We don't want to deal with conspiracy theories. There's no foul language on this channel. I have an issue with people who've joined our channel and using foul language. There's no foul language in the comments, just so you know. We're going to be a clean channel, and we're going to deal with the facts here. But we want you guys to be able to join the chat and ask us questions if you guys want to. Karen says, I don't think he's hiding. He could be wearing a mask. That's the culture we're living in right now. Virginia says, I've said that from the start. Look over here because I'm over there. That's exactly what happens. Could he be at the sister's house? I don't think so. I don't think so, Evan, because they searched the sister's house.
Yeah, and you would think that the FBI was doing a full-on investigation and spending as much money as they would check all the obvious places by now. And I'm not sure why they didn't check the camper earlier. I don't know why they didn't check the red Dodge truck earlier, especially when the neighbors confirmed that they went camping early on. You would have thought that they would have checked those places from day one.
I know one of the things that's happened is everybody who was saying that Doug the Bounty Hunter is not not right they've lost their credibility because Doug the Bounty Hunter's had more hot leads in 2 days than pretty much anyone else has had. And so I find that very interesting. We have another super chat. Jeff, thank you for the super chat. Brian's parents deserve an award for worst future in-laws ever. Man, I think people love that comment, Brian or Jeff. Like, I think people love your comment, Jeff. I can see when I saw it, I saw Evan's face absolutely light up with that. It's like, I think a lot of people are like, yeah, that's a fact. They didn't help with the search. They're not helping with this search. They seem completely unconcerned about what's going on. Very interesting. Yeah, dog lover saying we love it. Here's a question for you, Evan. How does Brian know there's so many people looking for him?
Well, as we discovered today, Brian, after he got back from with Gabby's van, they went and got a new phone from the cell phone store, and so I think that possibly there was someone that was keeping him up to date with everything.
Thank you, Rosa, for the super sticker. We really appreciate it. Here's a Kentucky loves you, dog. Man, I think a lot of people love dog. This person says we're profiting off, and we're not profiting off of this at all. Just so you know, so far the money that came in has been less than $300 total for 5 days of doing this. And we've had over 1 million views, just so you know. And there's other channels who have made. I know somebody told me one of the other channels has made $50,000 this month off of this. Our channels had less than $300, and we've given bulk of it to the Gabby Petito Family Foundation. Evan got $15. He was able to buy lunch with it. Okay, just so you guys know. Could it be that the search warrant didn't include the camper? Definitely. I listened to a report. I actually listened to a report from an FBI agent saying there's so much going on behind the scenes. She's a professor now, but she was a former FBI agent. She said there's so much going on behind the scenes that you have to have certain levels of subpoenas and different things to be able to search. And it felt like that to me, Evan, that they didn't have a reason to search that camper. And then after this, they did.
Yeah, they could be totally right. And I don't know if maybe the neighbor didn't release that he saw them going camping until after their initial search warrant was wrote or what. I don't think we really know.
Yeah, that's a great little thought to be having. Again, today was the scene outside of Brian Laundrie's household because, again, there was commotion out there where the FBI showed up and they entered with some things and then they left with some things. Thank you for the super chat, Sarah. She says, did they find evidence or clues in the camper? Yeah, absolutely. We don't know what that evidence or clues is because they didn't put it out there, but they searched the camper for several minutes. And then one of the things that they ended up doing after they searched the camper was they took bags of evidence with them. And I found that really interesting. We have a call from Coach Judd. And Coach Judd, thank you for joining our chat today. Hey, what are your thoughts?
Hey, guys, thanks for your coverage. Something that I've been wondering about, of course, Dog is thinking that Brian is going from island to island into Southern State Park and mentioned about possibility of a kayak track or whatever. Has anybody searched about where this canoe or this kayak could have come from?
Yeah, so there's been a couple bits of speculation about this. Outside of Fort DeSoto Park, there's actually several different little islands. And so Dog's sort of first line of defense is saying, well, like maybe he's here hopping from island to island on these kayaks. And I know today that's one of the things that they were searching. And honestly, dogs, like they have scent dogs out there. I've heard Nancy Gray say that scent dogs can actually smell under the water. I don't know how it happened. How does the water not push the smell away? She said that. We'll see if that's true. And another theory, Coach Judd, that they have is that he possibly could have kayaked further north to like draw suspicion that he's in this spot at Fort DeSoto Park and then make it up into the Panhandle. And so that's sort of what we're thinking.
My question is, where did he get the kayak or the canoe? If it was taken into the park when his parents would have gone in, it would have shown up on surveillance.
He could have stole it. He could have bought it after the fact with cash. He could have, you know, I've been to a lot of campgrounds, and Evan and I both do a lot of camping, and there's kayaks all the time laying around people could have taken. So you're on to something, but I don't know the exact answer to it.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, it's just.
I don't think I've really thought about that too much. We've heard that he possibly could have had a kayak or canoe, but I don't think anyone, or at least I haven't, thought of where he may have gotten it.
Yeah.
You know, if it would have been a rental or whatever, it looks like that would have been on surveillance at a store or you know, a campground or whatever, where he would have rented it. But that's something that's really been on my mind about where he got the vehicle to go, you know, the boat or the kayak or canoe, whatever, to get from island to island.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Coach Judd, for calling in and appreciate it. Thank you for liking and subscribing our page. It helps us out anytime anybody likes or subscribes to the page. It sends us out into the YouTube algorithm, and that's super helpful to get us into the interwebs. In that way, we have another super chat from Mushroom Clouds. Thank you for the super chat. What happened with the lead in North Carolina with Brian driving his grandfather's car? Now, this is a great question. This was a lead that came in from Wild Ridge Photography, and they were reporting that Skyline News had allegedly said this, and this was debunked. This ended up being one of those situations where it was like many of the other sightings. It was a potential sighting, similar build, happened to be a similar car, but they're saying it wasn't, and I'm sure they ran the plates and did that sort of thing. So thank you, Mushroom Clouds, for checking into that. And somebody was asking about the phone situation, and I think that's a good. I mean, like the phone situation is definitely something to be thinking about, to be talking about. And I think he bought the AT&T phone as a new phone on September 4th, possibly as a way to throw off the fact that he would then later buy a burner phone. And so he buys later a burner phone, and then people are like, well, he left his phone at the house. Yeah, he left a phone that he bought through AT&T at the house, but I could walk down to the Dollar General store next to my house right now, and I could buy a phone, and nobody would be able to trace it. Okay? And so I think that's interesting. Have you been following that, Evan?
Yeah. From the beginning, we've really thought that there could be a burner phone or something like that involved. And now that there is now that it is confirmed that there is another phone in place, it really makes you wonder.
Yeah, absolutely. And he did. He probably, I mean, it was something that he probably bought earlier. Hey, if you guys want to be on the chat with us, live on the chat, you can email press@tylerfiller.com with your question, and we will send you the link. What we don't want on the chat is we don't want people who have wild conspiracy theories, but we like questions and we like things that are rooted in facts. And so we'd love for you to join, but we would definitely like to be able to know what it is that you're talking about before we have you join, because we've had some people join that end up talking for like longer than people really want them to talk about stuff that is irrelevant to what's going on. And so we want to limit that as possible. I doubt he's on his island fleeing the country, as I would imagine. Evan, if you murdered somebody, what would you do?
I'd hide in a cave.
Hide in an underground cave or flee the country. And I know how Dog the Bounty Hunter even came into prominence was that he found somebody who had fled the country and was living in another country. And so I think that's one of those situations.
Well, so I just saw another tweet from Brian Enton, and it said that police or law enforcement recovered security footage from Tuesday from the Fort DeSoto campground, which made it kind of sound like there was camera footage of Brian Laundrie at the campground.
Yep. And I mean, just based off of the picture that the family had, it feels like, duh, that's obviously something that's true. Here's video of the FBI going into the Laundrie's camper this afternoon. As they're going into that camper, and I'll show you in just a second what it was they came out with. They're looking around. FBI agent enters into the camper. Interesting. Searching around, and then there's actually a picture of what the agent came out with. So let me hit the back button on that, and I'll go to twitter.com/Brian Inton. Oh man, I spelled it wrong. And he has a picture of somebody holding the officer holding what they came out with. So they came out with that. Evan, what do you think is that? What is that we're looking at?
I don't really know. He also tweeted earlier that the lawyer went out and said that they were recovering personal items to help search the search and rescue dogs and be able to find him. So that looks like, I don't know if that's just what they're keeping the evidence in. It's kind of what I'm figuring, but I don't know if maybe they could have. I honestly don't know. I have no clue.
It could be. I mean, it could be more DNA to link DNA. It could be something for scent dogs. They didn't leave empty-handed. I mean, that's the point. They did not leave the camper empty-handed.
People are saying that it is a some kind of specimen cup. They thought maybe some hair or something like that. Some urine, but it doesn't really look like that would be a camper that you could go to the bathroom in.
It does not look like a camper you can go to the bathroom in. Yeah.
Possibly a swab or a tissue or something like that.
Hey, we have another super chat from VT Fault. It says, people are all mad about dog being involved in the search. Who cares? The more the merrier. This scumbag needs to be caught. And I agree. I actually agree that we want Dog the Bounty Hunter involved in this call. And part of the reason why was because the more the merrier. But I actually think that Dog has a gift to be able to do this. And if you've watched any of Dog the Bounty Hunter videos, and I know you have, Evan, and I know that I have as well, Dog, I believe, is a Christian. You can see him openly talk about his faith often, and there's been a lot of people we've had making comments like, well, the thing about psychic, like searching, we can call on psychics and psychics will help. Well, I think that's the wrong route. But if you have a connection with God, and if you believe in God like I do, like Dog does, maybe God's able to help show him what's happening. It definitely feels like a gift to me, and I think gifts we have come from the Lord. And so personally, that's my view. I think the more the merrier, and then obviously it ends up to me being a good thing to have somebody who spent his entire life searching for people in on this. And so it's a lot to think about and to talk about there, but that's what I think. Hey, we have a caller, and I know let's see what he has to say. Raphael, thank you for joining. What do you have to say to us?
Hello, I'm from Buffalo, New York, and I know our police departments, when we call 911, they basically record all the conversations. So I was wondering, does Florida do the same thing? Because that would be really interesting to grab those recordings on those days that they called just before he went missing.
Evan, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I honestly don't. I'm not real sure. I'm not real sure what Florida's laws are for that.
You've given us something to think about in a new way, and we really appreciate it, Raphael. Any other thoughts?
That, and then have you guys seen the picture of his mother going shopping, and it looks like the Monster can is actually in the bag?
Yeah. So I kind of mentioned that earlier. Obviously, it's not a very good picture, so we can't really say for sure what it was. But just the color and the size kind of seems like that could be what it is. And if that is the case, then how did the family get it to him?
That's the other question. It's like maybe they have a drop off to where they just put it somewhere and he goes back later at night where, they're not really looking for him.
Yeah. That's, Raphael, great insight, great questions. Thank you for calling in and asking them. We had a super chat from Jeff, and he said, could Brian's parents have gone cannibal on him when they went camping and probably fed them the whole weekend? That's funny. It's possible. The lack of emotion from their parents is earth-shattering to me. How could you, if your child is missing, you completely pretend like they don't exist? Kathleen says you need to check out Channeling Eric, an excellent medium called Gabby. Okay. Here's the police report on the 10th was from her dad calling police. The 11th was where the mother reported her missing. Okay. Well, I would do the same if I was the dad in that. Yeah. Stacy says, good evening, Tyler. I love Kentucky. In fact, I spoke at a church event in Kentucky last weekend, and I had just a great time. The accents down there, I love it. The food down there, I love. We have some callers. Corey, I think. Corey, you've called in before, haven't you?
Yeah. So,
what's up, man?
I just want to make this very clear. Earlier in the case, people were saying that he was on a boat on Instagram for like 3 to 5 seconds, and I just want your thoughts. You think he's traveling to island on that boat that people saw on Instagram for 3 to 5 seconds?
So that video, unfortunately, that video that we're talking about that people were stalling, that's totally debunked. This guy, a YouTuber who's been in this case, and he's profited. People are getting upset at me. I haven't profited at all on this. He's profited tens of thousands of dollars, named Joseph Morris. He's the one who actually found that video off somebody else's TikTok, stole it, and then reposted it. And it was from months ago of people actually fishing catfish, and then said this was the video and totally put it out there, totally fake news. And it's totally debunked. So that was not him. That doesn't mean that Brian wasn't kayaking. It's just that video was fake, and somebody had. And there's actually a video, and Popcorn Planet went over it on his channel. There's a video of that guy. His name's Joseph, actually laughing about the fact that he created fake news, and he was like making fun of it. And he's like, "Yeah, my channel's growing from it." And then he was even saying things like, like whatever, I had to take one down because people got mad, but it just is what it is. And it's just totally disrespectful. It's just dishonest and disrespectful. And so anyways, Corey, good thoughts. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Thank you for calling in today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Evan's going to have to hop off here. I'm going to stay live for a while, and I still want to go over the timeline because I think it's one of the most beneficial things that we do. And I don't know if Gavis is watching, but if you're watching tonight, I'd love to have you join in on the call with us and go through that timeline again, because I think people are really interested in it. Evan, before you head off, what do you have to say today? What's your thought of the day as the developments have came alive?
So going back to that timeline a little bit, just as this investigation progresses, just being able to fill in that timeline, understand different areas that Brian could have went to, just so we can reach out to different people and try to see if maybe they saw Brian, try to see what he was doing, and get a better idea of the mental state that he was in, and if he had talked to anyone, and kind of gave a hint of where he could have went. And I know that just through the past week, we have been able to fill out that timeline a lot more than when we first started, and that's huge news as this investigation progresses.
And that's one of the things we're doing on this channel. Thank you, Evan, for being with us today. It's one of the things we're doing on this channel is we're making the timeline, and anytime we find out anything new that's been missing in the timeline, what we do is we add it to it. Gina says, hey, I love your channel. I'm glad I found it. I'm watching from Missouri. Thank you, Gina. I grew up in Missouri, and so it's great to have a fellow Missourian Show Me State with us today. Thank you so much for joining the channel. Hey, Magnus, I'm going to add you to the call in just a second, just so you know. Erica says this and says, WFLA tweeted body cam video analysis showing 2 phones. Where's Brian's original phone he pulled out of his pocket after lying to the police? That's the question of the day. So there's a couple of things going on, right? There's an original phone, all right? And then there's the phone he purchased on September 4th. And my working theory, and it's not confirmed, it's just a theory that's going to make sense to me, is if there is an additional burner phone that took place, that's what Brian would be using. If I had to make an assumption or make a guess, I would say that's exactly what's happening. And so we don't know that for sure. That's a thought that I have about this. Thank you for the super chat. Another super chat from Ian. It says, you can see 2 canoes just laying out on the beach at DeSoto using Google Maps. You're allowed to prop it. Where do you live? Where do you live? Where do we live again? Yeah, it's called capitalism, right? Okay. They'll never find the original phone. I don't think they will. He might have left it. Magnus, thanks for calling in. What's your thoughts?
So I'm from good old Canada up north, and
okay,
just the amount of money and resource that you guys spend on like the FBI, local police, is it considered an embarrassment if, you know, big old dog kind of breaks this case wide open? I know the monster can's a little bit of a stretch and theory this and theory that, but what if, like, is that a black mark on the police system?
A lot of people are saying that they should definitely be embarrassed about it. I think it's embarrassing a little bit, you know.
Yeah, I mean, from here it is like definitely in the amount of like pride and integrity that come with like the FBI, and
right.
I don't want you to think that I'm like downplaying like the job that they do is amazing. You know, seeing, you know, literally people dead on any given second of your work shift, like the things that they have to go through is quite a lot. But like, I don't understand. Maybe like, are we saying that Brian's family and Brian specifically are like these criminal masterminds that they're outwitting, outsmarting, you know, local authorities, FBI? Like,
well, some of the theories, like Brian himself is maniacal. And I mean, like, all the evidence points towards that. There's no reason that it doesn't, right? Because even if he is innocent, which is all alleged right now, he's not even a suspect in the actual homicide of Gabby Petito at this point. But even if he's innocent, he left his fiance out in the middle of nowhere and came back home. And when they weren't even supposed to come home, in her vehicle. And Lyndon Lair, thank you for the super chat. This is what I've been saying the whole time. As a pastor, I believe that there's nobody beyond redemption. I wish I had an opportunity to pray and minister to the Petito family and the Schmidt family. And I also wish I had an opportunity to pray and minister to the Laundrie family, because what a difficult situation. I have empathy for them, because who imagined being in this situation? Imagine trying to process it. But at the same time, if somebody in my family was missing, even if they're in my extended family, not even my immediate family, in my extended family, if somebody in my church family was out missing, you know, I would spend my whole time out there finding them. So I can't believe they're just like chilling. They don't seem worried.
Yeah.
They don't look worried. Hey, if you guys are watching too, if you don't mind, hit the like button on the video. Hey, Trish, I see you down in the chat. We're going to add you in just a minute.
But like that's the one thing that I was saying is like, if you're literally like in your house and people are doing news hits from your driveway, like, would you not be out every second trying to find your son if you genuinely thought he was missing, that you had to have that like press conference a couple Fridays ago saying we haven't seen him? Like, I don't believe that they're that smart of people to fool the FBI.
If it's and thank you, Magnus, for calling in. If it was completely meditated, then absolutely they're not that smart, but they had planned it out and they're 5 steps ahead, and they had a 14 or 11-day start at least. Fantastic Views, thank you so much for the super chat. You're asking about thermal imaging. That's a great question. What type of search grid? What's the number of people? Anything on these questions? We know that we know as a fact that they're using thermal imaging, and that's really important. Okay. How they're using it is unique, and we don't know that because they're saying like, oh, we weren't actually using it, but we know they're using it. And when you go and look at the flight paths, we know that they're searching at night, and they're keeping it all secret. And honestly, if I was in a search, I would be keeping it a secret too. Trish, thank you for joining. What's your thoughts?
Has anyone confirmed about his uncle and cousin running a boat launch out of like a marina nearby?
So the family is said to have a boat ramp, which I know how this works because I was a part. My friend bought one, and I went with him when he got it. You basically rent it out for the year. So somebody in the Laundrie family, it's not been confirmed as Roberta and Christopher themselves, down at Marco Island have sort of a boat ramp or whatever, and that's why Dog the Bounty Hunter was there originally. In fact, the report was like he's setting up home base there. When he got the tip about the thing at Fort DeSoto, it sort of changed his trajectory, and he went up there. And so, I mean, that's a good thought. It's a good question to have, and somewhere good to be. So
Yeah, it's so close to that island. I'm all like, why? If the parents are in it, why wouldn't the uncle be in it?
Right.
All right.
And do you think Brian's guilty?
Oh yeah. You don't drive across the country without your fiance in her vehicle and not tell anyone for 10 days.
Could you imagine ever doing that?
No.
My
I
goodness.
know. And then of course the parents are in on it as well. It sucks for them. It's their kid, but why would you wait if two people that are living in your house don't show up and one person doesn't come back?
One of the things that we've been talking about quite a bit too was the connection between the other women that were killed, Kylan and Crystal. Do you think that the murder of Kylan and Crystal is connected to Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito?
It's just so close of a coincidence that they got, that they got into a fight outside of her work, one of their works. It's just wild.
Yeah.
And no one can confirm if Brian stayed away from wherever Gabby was sleeping that night, if he stayed at the hotel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy.
Well, thank you, Trish, for calling in, and I appreciate your insight and your questions. If you guys are interested in calling in or want to be a part of the call, I'd love to send you the link. I'm going to actually put it in the chat, and just so you know, you can just click on it. If you have a camera or whatever, you can join with us. And if you have a question, we'll be glad to answer your questions. If you don't have a question, then and you want to make a comment, it has to be clean. Okay, we are only doing clean content on this channel. I want to share with you guys, I actually have been in contact with Dog the Bounty Hunter, with the family, and with their representatives, and we were actually trying to get one of them on the show. Initially, we were asking to have Dog on the show, and then we were going to have Lisa on the show, and then we got an email today from the team, Dog the Bounty Hunter's team, and I know it's kind of small, and I don't know if I zoom in if it even helps. Yeah, it does help a bit. So, oh man, it just disappeared. And I want to read you guys the email that they sent because they're giving us some insight even in the way that they're communicating with us on it. I have no idea where that went. Let me put it back on there real fast. So we got an email from the family of Dog the Bounty Hunter, and he was saying, hey, good afternoon. The team has been researching leads all day, and now they sent me this like minutes before we went live today because we had been in conversation with Lisa about coming on and had been messaging them about being a part of the call with us today. And so they said, good afternoon. The team has been researching leads all day, which now number in the thousands. Lisa, who was previously available to do interviews, has had a family emergency, and we have had to pivot. And because of it happening so close to a certain outlet's airtime, and out of a desire not to create a problem for that outlet, we are moving heaven and earth to fill in. This was not in the plan, and we hope that you all give us grace as we do our best to honor our commitments. The team will be searching tomorrow, location not disclosed. Thank you for your good reporting, and we hope that that Brian is brought in safely and quickly. Dog does not care who brings him in, just that he's apprehended. And we hope we're serving you in an efficient and helpful manner. Hope to have some news to share tomorrow. And so that was an email that Dog the Bounty Hunter's team sent me today because, like I said, we've been trying to have some certain conversations with them about being in the call with us. And I think that's really important. And and I'm going to continue to be in conversations with them. And as soon as we could possibly get one of them on the call with us, that's something that we want to do. Okay. We have a new caller calling in right now, Amy. We're going to add Amy to the stream. Then we're going to go over the timeline too. Amy, Amy, thank you for joining us today. What are your thoughts?
Hi, how are you? I have a couple of things. I'll just try to make it quick. I know people may be trying to call you. First is, never apologize for making money, because the TV people are making plenty of money off of this case, and this is capitalism, not communism. The second thing is, I agree, about the FBI. I believe the FBI is embarrassed.
Yeah.
I consider them now the Federal Bureau of Incompetence. I just view them as a three-letter agency that's political, that doesn't really represent me anymore as a person. I wouldn't feel safe if something happened in my family. If I wanted something to fight for justice, to bring someone that might have hurt my family member to a court of law to be tried and have a trial. I want them to do their job, and obviously they're not. And what's going to happen is people are going to not trust these government agencies to protect the public,
Right.
and we're just going to want to be self-sufficient and find and take care of our own criminal matters ourselves. And that's how that's how I feel. Like, even with law enforcement in towns, so look what they did with these cases. They don't protect people. They seem to only work for the mayor and whatever's politically expedient for them, whatever activist issue they want to promote, instead of protecting people, because we're all people, and everybody, no matter what color, race, religion, creed you are, we all deserve the same protection, not equity,
Absolutely.
equality. We want the same. We want to have fair. No, we're looking at. We want to have a fair outcome to an investigation. It
What do you
shouldn't be
think
care
about
about
this
class
comment we
or
just got, Amy?
race. All one people.
We just got a comment from Jean, and she said the Moab police could have
What is
saved
it?
Gabby's life. What do you think about that?
But I think, well, the thing is, there's a very good woman I was watching. I don't know if you should look at her. She's from England, and she does her channel's called Live Abuse Free. And I'm a nurse by profession, and what I believe is that that they should have someone that they should call on these calls. They need to have someone that, even the police are not trained in psychology or any kind of medical kind of or social work type of
Yeah.
they don't have the background.
I thank you, Amy, for calling in. I think you're absolutely right. It's like there are times whenever there's certain mental health crisis or other issues going on that far outweighs maybe the expertise of what's happening with certain law enforcement. I want to stick up for the Moab police a little bit, because it's a town of 5,000 people, and in my opinion, they're doing the best they can. And so I'm going to add Chris to the call in just a second, but I want to go over this timeline as she's talking about Moab, and as we get deeper into it, because I think it's important for us to understand that as we understand what was happening with Kylan and Crystal, what's happening with Gabby Petito, the timelines to me are very similar. And I think the Moab police have a lot to say that they can say. It says, when we look at the timeline, that August 12th, they posted on Instagram at Arches National Park. Kylan was working at the Moonflower Co-op that day until 3 p.m. When Brian was interviewed by the police, one of the things that they said in this conversation was hey, we were at the Moab Co-op from 9 to 3. Okay, well, they're there from 9 to 3. They were at the Moonflower Co-op for 6 hours. Kylan was there, and they're all van lifers. So my assumption is that they ended up having a level of friendship. Okay. On August 13th, Brian he posts on Instagram twice that day. It's the last time that he posts on Instagram. 8:30 p.m. that day. It's really the last time that Kylan and Crystal's seen. They were at a place called Woody's Tavern, which Brian and Gabby were also said to be at. And one of the things that Kylan and Crystal, they were there with friends. One of the things they said was that there's a creepy guy at the campsite, and if something happens, think the worst about it, because we're kind of freaked out. We need to move campsites. And then August 14th rolls around, and it's the last known communication. And this happens to be the same time period whenever Gabby and Brian are nowhere to be found. Well, Gabby and Brian are separated, and we don't know exactly where they were at, other than they were separated from each other. And the police got a hotel for Brian on that particular day. So I think there's a lot to think about when we're going to go even more in depth to this timeline. I'm going to read a super chat that we got, a Japanese proverb from BG Willia 21207. You beat the bushes to startle snakes. That's Dog's role, by the way, we're going to get a copy of the timeline. A lot of people have been asking me for the timeline, and I've been emailing it to people if they ask me when my email is not being flooded and I can actually get through them. Hey, Chris, thank you for joining the call. What are your thoughts today?
Hey, Tyler, first and foremost, I appreciate the coverage, man. I appreciate you trying to keep it as factual as you can. There's a lot of misinformation out here. I applaud you for that. I'm just trying to think outside the box. Nothing to take away from what happened to Gabby. I think it's absolutely horrible. But what are your thoughts on how much the news is covering this story? I mean, I understand it's like a murder mystery playing out in front of our eyes. It's captivating, and we're all, trying to figure it out. But do you think that the excessive coverage is maybe distracting us from something else that's maybe going on, or do you think that the coverage is necessary?
No, I think it's helpful. I think that the role that the public is playing is helpful. And there's an element, too, of this, Chris. For some reason, you and I and thousands of other people that are paying attention to what's happening are connected to this case. Some of us are connected because we relate to being in toxic relationships. Some of us are connected because when we look at Gabby, we see a family member, or we see a spouse, or we see a friend, and we see somebody's life who was cut too short. And it's not only helping us go find out where Brian Laundrie may be and help find justice for Gabby, not to the same extent, but there also has been a raising up of pursuit of other missing cases. And so there's so much to this that I think in the end is going to be a net win. And I heard Callahan Walsh, which is John Walsh's son, talk about this. And one of the things that he was saying was, in the past, social media or online or the public really hurt us more than they helped us. But in this situation, it's been above and beyond a big help for us that the public's involved. And so I understand that you might be thinking like magicians sort of do. They or thieves or pickpocketers, they distract you in your face and they reach around and grab your wallet or whatever. And I don't necessarily think in this situation that that's what's happening. But
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I don't want to come off sounding uncompassionate, because, like I said, what happened is horrible. It shouldn't happen. It could have been prevented. I'm just curious as to the excessive news coverage. And I also want to say one more thing, and I'll let you continue, man. If you're going through mental illness, if you're a victim of domestic violence, please do not be afraid to reach out and ask for help, because this could have been prevented.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Thank you, Chris, for calling in. And I want to say this: if you are in a toxic relationship, you need to get out of it. The Bible says it's better to be alone than to be married to a quarrelsome wife. Hey, that's the scripture, and it was Solomon writing a letter to his son. That's why he said that. But if you're, in other words, the scripture teaches, if you're in a toxic relationship, you need to get out of it. And beyond that, nobody's beyond repair. Everybody has humanity inside of them. And so if you feel like something's wrong with you mentally, if you're struggling with depression or anxiety or whatever, I believe the Lord can heal you in that. Here we have a super chat from Sarah. Do you think he will be caught eventually and get tired of running or come out of hiding? Gavis, what do you think about this? Is he going to get caught, or is he going to just turn himself in, or is he even alive?
He's definitely alive. If he was dead, he would be really easy to find right now. If they don't catch him within the next 2 days, then I think he's in the wind, and he's probably in Costa Rica or someplace doing organic farming on a farm with no technology whatsoever, and no one will know.
Gavis, the people are excited you're back with us. Check the comments out, man. And I know people really want us to go through the timeline almost more than anything. And Jules, I'm going to add you to the stream and we'll give you a second. But almost more than anything that people are sending me feedback on is they're excited that somebody's breaking down the timeline, continually going through it and filling in the missing holes. And now, because of what's happened the past 2 days, we have more information that we can add to that. And so that's good for us. Jules, thank you for calling in today. What's your question or what's your thought?
So I'm just wondering, historically speaking, if someone goes AWOL, if they go missing, it's very hard to do these days, right? With their towers, he supposedly has a burner phone, whatever. Does anyone know if there is a fade off spot? In other words, I think like he was saying previously, if he's not caught in the next 2 days, is he gone forever? Has he escaped? Or is there any metric that would show that if someone's on the run, what time period, when someone's missing, technically speaking, like a murder victim, the odds are as the time goes on, are they get worse. The fate of the person missing is worse. I'm wondering if there is any metric with that of someone who's on the run, if anyone knows. Does it get better? Does it get worse? Where are we at in terms of, of him being found on a...
I heard Dog say in an interview, he says, "I'm relentless," and you're cutting out, Jules. So we appreciate having you in, and thank you for calling in, and thank you for liking and subscribing, being part of our channel. But I heard Dog say in an interview that he's relentless, and he's not giving up on this case until he finds Brian dead or alive. Bradley has a question for you, Gavis. Has the timeline changed because of the sex offender from Kansas that was close together, was found a few days ago?
Not at all.
Not at all, because those things are not related, unlike the speculation that people have made.
No, this timeline is, I did a massive amount of work again for the last 20 hours straight. And yeah, I think the connection is very, very easy. One of the biggest connections was that Kylan and Crystal were probably smoking dope. I hate to say that. In the police interview, you hear Brian talk about how there's nice little shady places at the Moonflower. I originally thought they might have been standing inside and Kaylin was at the cashier's register, but she probably went outside for a cigarette.
Yeah.
This might be a connection where they might have smoked a blunt together. And I think that's how these three people got together.
It's interesting. We have Evie calling in. Hey, Evie, what are your thoughts?
Hey there. Just a few things. I heard the gentleman earlier speaking to asking about where would he found a canoe or a kayak. I noticed in the picture of the park that Dog's looking at, there's like 20 or 30 canoes right there at the water. So, I mean, he could have easily took one of those for one. I don't know if anyone's checked if they have a missing canoe or not, but that's one thing. And then two, it saddens me how so quickly the police or whoever was to dismiss the fact that these other two ladies were correlated with, Gabby's situation, talking about, how the FBI or the police officers and stuff, how we can't count on them. Well, they were very quick to dismiss that two connections, you know what I mean? Without doing their research. And then also two other things is, where's the old camper that the parents had? I mean, what did they do with it? Because they said that they bought a new camper and they had a previous one. So where is it at? Is it stacked up with a bunch of stuff somewhere for Brian to get, food out of, or what?
Do you want to answer all these questions, Tyler?
There's two theories about the second camper. One is they hid it up north somewhere for Brian to take a kayak and get, instead of to another island, which would be easily searchable, because if the further he extends out on islands, the harder it is for them to, to do. But the other theory, so they hit it up north, possibly, and then the other theory is that they sold it and bought this other camper. So, Gavis, what do you think?
I think that there was only one camper to begin with, and that's the camper question. What's the next one? Let's go.
Okay, and then the last thing is this Joe Laundrie originated from New York and now has this whole yacht company, Super Yachts, and now it's part in Florida, but it originated in New York. That's odd, you know what I mean? When they're from New York and now they're down there in Florida. Did anybody look into that?
There's some definite connections, I think. Go ahead, Gavis.
So if you guys
streaming today, Evie.
So if you guys remember that I went back and my first initial thought was we went through the Instagram and there was Marco Bay. I hope you guys remember that, because that's where Gabby and Brian were on a boat, and it wasn't just a little tiny whatever. They were on a big boat, and whether they had some connection to their grandpa or their uncle or someone had a big boat down there, that's where it is. So the first theory on trying to locate Brian, his sister lives up just across the way from that Fort DeSoto. So yes, if the FBI doesn't catch him within the next literally almost 12 hours. Then he drifted off in the wind by exiting from that Marco Bay. I promise you.
And so we put a new question out in the polls asking where's the other camper, and I'd love to hear you guys' feedback just for speculation point. We have a question from K-Dubs, or more of a comment saying, try the lawyer's house, hiding in plain sight and able to get food. They keep meeting the lawyer and aren't searching for Brian. Yeah, I'm sure they have surveillance on the lawyer. I'm certain of that.
The only reason why I think that he might have snuck away from Fort DeSoto over to his sister's is there's no surveillance at his sister's place, or very little, and he could have by kayak gotten off that island if Dog just about closed the net on him. He could have gotten off that island where they were camped.
Yeah.
From the 6th, 7th, and 8th. But he was seen back in his neighborhood walking around, cycling, mowing the lawn, being a good little Laundrie. But if he did get closed in on and he couldn't get away, he would have stuck to things that he knows. And the only things that he would know is where his sister's house is, which is, you can follow, there's a little lake there. I think it's called Lake Mead or something, or Lake Head or something. But you could literally get from a kayak off the main ocean down that little canals, and he could get to his sister's if he wanted to.
Well, let's work through some of this timeline again, and I can scroll down to your timeline and just go from there, Gabby.
Yeah,
I put them all in the same document just so it'd be easy for me to get to as people were asking for it and different things. So we were already to at the end of 8/14.
Can we just take questions and I'll answer them as they come up? I want to save this timeline for maybe a potential full run from the top to the bottom. We won't have the time. We won't have the time. I promise you.
So let me do some more running through, and then when questions start to pop up about the timeline, we'll do a quick version of going through the timeline. And when questions pop up, we'll go through it. Bo Bloomer, longtime watcher, says that's what I was saying. Extended family besides his parents. You would hope they're searching for that, right? Like, I hope they're searching through the extended family on this, and I don't know that they are, but I would hope that is something that's happening, and they are searching through that. When we look at what's happening on August 14th, what we see, a separation of Brian and Gabby, and then we see the last.
Sorry, Tyler, but this timeline is totally. So on my new one, I've graded this out because there was not really, I couldn't find the witness. So yeah, this the 14th we can go through here. I'll go to mine. So the 14th right now, oh my God, I have a whole bunch of stuff. The Moonflower opens up on 8 o'clock. It's Saturday. There's a wedding party Friday and Saturday night with 100 guests. That's where across from where they were found by the creek where they were killed. So yeah, I can't confirm that they were seen in Moab driving the silver Kia. And then there's Instagram photos of Gabby and Brian hiking, and that's reported on their Instagram on the 14th. So this is why I think that the connection is maybe perhaps later in that day they actually got together. Maybe they saw their van and Kylan and Crystal stopped and said, hey, let's go. Or maybe they just saw Brian in the van. But at the same time, if you go through all the Pinterest and all the Instagrams, you can see that Gabby actually had a bit of a dark side to her as well, just like Brian. So
I think that's a point that other people have made, and it doesn't sit really well with some people whenever we talk about it. But there's some people who've said like, well, hey, there's some things about her that there was definitely a dark side, and then they're not interested in discussing it because it's like people don't like talking about people who are deceased in that kind of a way, but it just happens to be the truth in this situation. What you see right now on the screen is the FBI today going into the camper at Brian Laundrie's house, and they obviously came out with something. Gavis, what do you think they came out with? What are they getting while they're in there?
From what I saw, they were trying to get fresh scents for the dogs to track.
Okay. Interesting. So fresh scents for the dog. Hey, we're gonna have Tranquil Pilot to the call. Tranquil, thank you for coming on. I know you came on with us the other night. Thank you for joining us again. Thank you for being a multiple time or long time watcher. What are your thoughts or questions?
Hey Tyler, and thank you for letting me in. And I'm glad I came on when Gabis is here. Uh, Ever since I heard you talk about the link between these two cases, I just can't take my mind off of it. So, like any new leads on Brian's flight back and forth from Utah to Florida? Like there's like so many links coming forward.
Yep.
We all remember that there was this family who came up with a selfie
Yep.
when they were at the campground with
Yep.
allegedly Brian in the background.
Yep.
Like, there's absolutely no one coming. There must have been someone on the same flight or even if not right next to him.
Well, I've flown a lot in the past year and a half, and flying is totally different now than it used to be. It's like there's no interaction between people hardly on planes, and everyone's wearing masks. And if you take your mask off, you're in trouble. And so, and if he had done something wrong or thought he was doing something wrong, he's going to try to be as incognito as possible. So I haven't heard any new developments of that. Gavis, have you heard any new developments about that particular day? And that you're looking in the right place, because that unlocks more for us than we than we realize.
If he flew to Florida, then
So that actually fits my timeline perfectly. And so the research I did on that today is that he would have flown from Salt Lake City, SLC, to Venice, which is actually called Fort Myers, FMY. And so I looked at a price tag for that, and that was about $486 return. But you also have to produce a negative COVID test. So I don't know how it works in the States, but
you can buy a test. You can go buy your own test at the
right.
store.
So, but if you remember, on the 12th at the cop stop, he basically told the officer that he had no money whatsoever.
Yeah.
I know Gabby has money, but it seems really, really convenient that this is a coincidence that these two girls go missing, and all of a sudden Brian is 150 miles away, jumping on an airline to go back to see his dad to move
the
storage stuff. Like,
Yeah.
Come on. Doesn't
Hey,
make sense.
we have a super chat from Joe who says that Brian is not smart enough to leave the country. He does not have the resources. That's exactly sort of what you're saying. Like there's not enough resources available for.
Well, that's why they were looking to, at the end of their trip, they were looking to go to that organization called WOOP, the World Organic, whatever the hell it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And you work on the farm. You can eat 100% organic. You don't have any bills. You're off the grid. You can walk around in bare feet all day. That's what this kid likes.
Melissa, thank you for joining the call. What are your thoughts today?
Yeah, I too have felt very strongly, wondering if there was a connection between the married couple and Brian. But my only question that makes me think maybe not is the fact that when she messaged the friend saying about the creepy guy, it seems she doesn't know who the creepy guy is. She doesn't say, "Oh, I saw him at the Moonflower" or anything like that. So
Yeah,
I just wanted to.
That's a good point. And people are emailing and whenever they're watching even the replay and they're getting more thoughts on it, they're saying things like, "Hey, it's all speculation," and it's true. We don't know for sure if the creepy guy they're talking about is Brian or if it's not. But I will say this, like, the coincidences of 3 murders happening in that place and that time are very unlikely, and so the chances
I agree. Yeah,
so,
it seems like it very likely it could be connected. But yeah, that was my only question. I wish we had more information about what was said to the friend.
And Gavis has studied this in depth, and just to paint a perspective for where he was at and where he's at now, he initially was thinking there's no way these things are connected. And he and I and another lady, Kim, had a big discussion about it. Kim and I both thought they were connected. Gavis was on sort of an opposite spectrum and then spent a lot of time researching it, came back on our last call, apologized to everybody for being, so certain about it not being connected, and said, actually, at the end of the day, now I think that they're connected. And I want to correct myself on this.
Well, the police keep saying that there's no connection, though, right? Like, do you think they're just saying that because it's an ongoing investigation there too?
I just don't think that anyone, literally anyone, could make the connection. I mean, you have to understand that they're at the Moonflower and just how small this town is.
Yeah, I live in a small town with 5,000 people, so I know what that's
but this
like.
is even more serious. There hasn't been a death in Moab in 16 years, and then Brian Laundrie shows up, and then within 14 days, 3 women are found dead. That's too much of a coincidence. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you.
Hey, thank you so much for calling in today, Melissa. We really appreciate it. Here's a question from Zan's Beats that says, will the Gabby Petito autopsy results be released to the public? The autopsy of the body will provide more clues to the case. And I totally agree with you. And I was listening to, it wasn't a current FBI agent. I don't think current FBI agents are allowed to speak on the matter, but it was a former FBI agent. And one of the things they said is they're not releasing the autopsy because they're trying to be very careful on how they're wording what's happening, probably because they think that Brian is guilty of this homicide. And if they do a better job of guarding what they're saying and guarding what they're doing with how they paint Brian in the light, then it's going to be something that in the future, when they go to court or whatever, they're not going to have an easy out on. And so some of the speculation that they're late on sending in the autopsies, that we don't know the exact date. I had heard that it was supposed to be revealed. It was supposed to be revealed last Tuesday, and it just didn't happen. And so, have you heard any update on that, Gavis?
With respect to what?
With respect to the release of the autopsy.
I don't believe they're going to release the autopsy anytime soon, and I don't want to tell everyone in here why. Brian's a dark guy, and I think that the cause of death is going to be ugly.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of speculation about what that cause of death is. And you know what? I appreciate you saying that in the way that you worded that.
Yeah. Use your imagination.
I mean, yeah, you say a lot by saying that. So Gavis, I appreciate how you worded it. And maybe they won't release it. And it could be the family asked them not to release it. Like, who's to say why this stuff should be made public to begin with? Hey, if you're watching, thank you for watching. The best thing you can do to help us out is hit the like button, because it shoots us out into the algorithm. And man, it just means so much that you guys are supporting this channel in the way.
I've also done some research onto that geologist that was found as well when they were searching for Gabby's body.
Are they connected?
I can't quite fit it, but okay. I'm struggling, guys. I'm trying to do it.
Wow. I put a link in the chat too if there's some other folks that want to call in, and if you guys want to ask us any questions. I'm going to put up, Gavis, I'm going to put up that timeline again, and just go over it. And even if we're
can we get away from that, Tyler, and just ask questions from the public, because I think we're losing,
a lot of people are
emailing.
A lot of people are emailing asking to put the timeline up and just go over it, and then questions sort of come up that way.
I will definitely go through the timeline at some point from top to bottom, like at the start of the trip to now. I have it all done, but we just don't have enough time to do something like that. So let's try to sort out some of the silliness that's going on. That's what I think would be the most useful right now.
So by silliness, what exactly are you saying is silliness? Like just
well, just people's weird theories coming out, that they couldn't be here, they couldn't be there, and it just legal things with the parents. Dog, is that really the monster can? Did his mom take it in? Things like that. And I think I can squash everything real quick.
Mike, thank you for calling. What's your question? Hey, Mike, thank you for joining us. What's your thought? All right, Mike joined and then didn't want to talk. So
No, the timeline isn't silly, guys. I think that we could literally, even just covering from now till we could cover this for the next 12 hours, quite literally. Even if we just started with some of this stuff. A couple of the points I'll bring up right now, Tyler, is last night I saw the FBI and I saw some hate on the FBI. And if you guys saw what I saw last night on the tracker, the FBI had over 30 helicopters in the air. They were searching the entire Appalachian Trail entrance. They had that thing so covered, there is zero chance he's up there now.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like people were, and you were alluding to it in the press conference that the Petito and Schmidt family gave. They were essentially saying, "Hey, we love the FBI. We have no issues with what they're doing." In other words, they're supportive of how the FBI is coming. And I'm just going to do a quick rundown of this timeline. People are emailing for it. I'll send them my version of it if they're wanting it. But the 14th. And we know what you're saying, Gavis, that some of this has been corrected or whatever.
The 14th is it's tricky. It's really tricky because we don't have any eyewitnesses. We don't have any sightings. We really have to speculate here. So this is like trying to cross a creek, but you've only got 2 rocks to step on.
The things that we know for sure is that it's the last time anybody has seen Kylan and Crystal, and it was the day in which Gabby and Brian were reunited. And then we don't really hear anything again to the 17th. Does Brian fly back? And we've had some questions come in about that. And that's interesting to see. Does Brian fly back? If he does, that's weird. We know that, Gabby was hanging out at the hotel by an airport in a city while they're on a trip where everybody is definitely, instead of hanging out in a city, they've been hanging out in national parks where there's hardly anybody at, and they've been living in the back of their camper. So it's interesting to me that she's in a city to begin with. That to me is like they are on a cross-country road trip to spend time at national parks, not spend time in a city at a hotel next to an airport. We have a question that came in from Greg. If Gabby exchanged phone numbers at Moonflower due to van life commonality, could have stayed at their site after being stranded overnight?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff with this because there's actually Instagram photos of them back at the Arches, which is where they got stopped, and that's where they were back. They were headed back up that way into the Arches. If you visit the Arches, there's tons of places to go. So that they were headed up there about 5 o'clock at night. I think they wanted to get some nice photos at sunset in those Arches and different rocks and all kinds of different things. But Brian got taken to the Bone Hotel for the night, and Gabby, probably on her way back into town, she probably saw exactly where Brian was getting dropped off. So whether they stayed together that night or Gabby went and parked her van at the Moonflower or whatever, we know the next day they got together because there's Instagram posts of pictures of them up there at the different sites.
Yeah. We have William calling in. Hey, William, thank you for joining us. What are your questions?
My question is did anybody notice every time the TikTok that Brian Bizarre, what's his thing? Bizarre
Designs.
Yeah, look at Gabby's TikTok, and Bizarre Design is liked by every single one of them. So it's just weird, really weird.
Yeah, there's a big problem with just about half of the posts that are posted on the Instagrams and Bizarre and all that. It looks like Brian
it just seems to me like he was wanting to be ahead in everything that Gabby did. Like that's why he was so jealous with the
website,
with all
the blog,
with everything.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right about that. There was definitely a level of embarrassment or insecurity really from Brian. Like, here Gabby is and she's succeeding. And he was like, well, it's just a little website. Like, it's not going to become something. Well, they quit their jobs and was trying to make a run at making it something for a living. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, it just struck me when I was actually looking through it yesterday, and I seen how he was just liked liked by Bizarre Design, but Bizarre Design. I mean, it was like weird. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, that's why he was just so jealous. You know,
There was one Instagram actually where Bizarre Design is mentioned 4 times in the post.
Yeah.
And that was written by Brian.
Yeah.
Absolutely 100%. So that leads into that jealousy that man was talking about for sure.
Absolutely. It's absolutely. Hey, I want to thank Alicia for sending in a super chat. Thank you, Alicia, for doing that. And Peter, Brian got money from the couple he killed. Peter S. says, I don't know, Peter, about that, if that's true or not true. If you have some facts, please email it. Please email it to you. John Dunn sends me a super chat. Tyler, could you read over a comment theory that I messaged you about earlier? I reposted the comment on September 25th stream. I will take a look at it, John, for sure. Thank you so much. And then a question from Alicia. Why didn't the cops search the car? Has anyone read the Nomadlands books? Thank you, Alicia, for your support of my channel. And another way people can support too is by hitting the like button. These books are problematic, in my opinion. And it's not just the books. It's a combination of the artwork that's attached to the books. To me, and Gavis is shaking his head, so I know he's agreed, and we talked about it the other night. It is a major problem. There is a major problem with these books.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. His fascination with that author, it's ridiculous. You know, you got Lullaby, you got Rant, you got Fight Club, you have, I'll go to my list. It's
Annihilation.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, I want to shout out Bradley with another super chat. Do you think he started a fight with staff? Was the fight that we started with staff, I'm assuming you're talking about the Mary Piglet, was to keep Gabby from seeing some news the girls found dead, and then maybe she would confront him about it? It's very possible that the fight with staff was to keep Gabby from maybe seeing something on the news. I don't know. To me, and the correlation that I've been saying the other day, or the relationship that I was saying the other day, was like, there has to be, in my opinion, a connection between Brian has big angry blowups and then people go dead or missing afterwards, and that's been a common theme. Particle says, has anybody talked about the potential of raw videos still being around? Unedited, uncut videos would be really telling. Yeah, people are sending them in. They're sending them to FBI. They're reposting them. And I wish we could find the raw videos. I assume it's one of the things they did on the camera and the computer search of what they obtained in the first search warrant for Brian Laundrie and his family. I think that's very interesting. But go back to this question that Alicia had about the books. What were the list of books that you had, Gavis?
Well, those are the main ones, but it's not just the books. It's if you go to I worked through his entire Pinterest. I worked through Gabby's entire Pinterest. I worked for both of their Instagrams. There's a lot of dark stuff in there. You know, I think Brian looks at himself as a toad. He refers to himself as a toad, and it's really some dark and light and a whole bunch of really ugly things in there. So those relate to the books, because those books are a lot of times people that have a secondary personality, like Fight Club.
Yep.
Yet they're the same person.
Yep.
So when you really do a big deep dive into this stuff, it blows your mind.
It's very interesting. I appreciate your hard work on it. Hey, Mike, we're going to add you back to the call. Last time we added you, your microphone wasn't working. Is it working now? Are you there with us? Okay, I'm going to kick him from...
Can you hear me now?
I was about to kick you off the studio, man, because I thought you weren't there. Yeah, we can hear you. What's your thoughts?
So I want to... Do you guys have on your timeline the 9/14... I guess it was an in-store video of Brian buying the phone at AT&T near his house.
Okay, that was the 4th, and the lawyer came out and said that was confirmed.
I thought that was 9/14.
No, that was on the 4th.
It was on. Yeah, it was on September 4th. Laundrie's lawyers confirmed Brian purchased a new phone from AT&T. To me, that's a super interesting detail that it was a new phone purchase, and then this is a phone that's left behind. So he purchases a new phone and then leaves it behind a few days later. There's so much to think about in this.
Okay, I thought that was 9/14. Is there another? Is that the same one where he walked in with an older woman? It was reported that he walked in the store with an older woman. I'm assuming it's his mom.
If you have a link to that video, send it to me.
They didn't release the video, but the FBI made that statement that they did have video of him in the store with an older woman.
Okay, I found it. So
is that-
9/14 is the lawyer admits the phone was purchased at AT&T.
Yeah.
Okay. So now the whole dog the bounty hunter thing is out the window, because that means that Brian did not float off into the water on 9/7 from the campsite, right? He came back home and he was seen near his house buying a phone on 9/14. So that means he couldn't have floated off into the water on 9/7. So dog is on the wrong.
No.
track there.
No. Dog's on the right track.
How? The timeline doesn't make sense.
It does, because they were at the campground from the 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Yep. Then he came back and he was at AT&T on the 14th.
Well, there's also hold on. There's also reports on the 9th of him walking around in the neighborhood. There's a report on the 10th that he biked in the neighborhood and was mowing the lawn.
Okay.
So he's
What
there.
does that have to do with the campgrounds near the ocean? So Dog the bounty hunter thinks that Brian floated off into the water from that campground for some reason.
I think that's one of the angles for sure.
Well, if he was back home near his home in 9/14, then that doesn't make any sense.
Right, but what Dog is thinking is that he could have gotten back, went home, then when everything comes out, he could have gone back to one of those islands around there. And because those islands they found an old guy there today with his dogs. They actually found a really old guy that was been living on the island in that thick trees.
Well, that doesn't mean Brian's there. I mean, Brian
Doesn't
could have
mean he
gone
couldn't be.
anywhere from 9/14. There's no indication that he went back to that campground. There's nothing to make anyone think that. Now, it would make sense if he was there on 9/7 and that's where he was last seen. Okay, I'll buy that. But he was seen a week later near his house. So now it doesn't make any sense. There's no indication that he left from the campground.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Like he was seen the next week walking around the neighborhood, going for a walk with his mom.
So
mowing the
why is
lawn.
Dog the bounty hunter so hyper focused on this campground?
He had intel that he was at that campground, and that's the reason why. Hey, I want to shift gears for just a second, because there is second body cam footage that was released from the other police officer, and it's just the raw body cam police, but I think it'd be good for us to kind of go through it and dissect it together. The second body cam footage of the second police officer was released, and we've been waiting for this. And because in my opinion, Gavis, when we look at what's been happening, like in my opinion, this police officer is the one who was having issues. Like this police officer was not handling things appropriately, in my opinion.
Is this the guy with the beard?
Yeah.
The guy that, yeah. Okay, so this guy took a leave of absence.
He should have probably taken a leave of absence. This was just released a little bit ago. This is the raw second body cam footage. It just got released today. We're watching it now.
How are we doing? Good. Hey, we got a call about a male hitting a female and the two of them getting in this vehicle and taking off.
Let's hear that again. Did you guys hear what he said? Because we didn't know that he was that clearly saying that.
Oh, this is good.
How's it going? How are we doing? Good. Hey, we got a call about a male hitting a female and the two of them getting in this vehicle and taking off.
So I don't want to try and defend myself by saying anything here, but I pushed her away. She gets really worked up, and when she does, she swings and she had her cell phone in her hand. So I was just trying to push her away. But Gabby, I'm talking about my fiance, right?
He looks scared. His facial expression, he looks scared. This comment says a male hitting a female. That's what he said. We have a
Yeah,
male
George,
hitting a
page back,
female.
well, let us know if we need to head that way. If it's nothing more pressing, we'll stay here. Tell me what's going on.
Gavis, what do you think we're going to find in this?
Well, I think you can see right there, just Waldo's his reaction right off the hop. Like, he was terrified.
He looked absolutely terrified.
He was so close to cracking. If he didn't switch his head and go turn to the other officer in the other window, I think we have a whole different situation play out.
Yep.
This is so hard for me to watch. I've looked at this so many times and in so many different ways. Oh,
I've been saying too, like, this police officer was not doing things right. Let's listen to this.
What's your name? Gabby, how old are you?
I'm 22.
What happened? What's going on?
I'm just having a very stressed morning.
Yeah. Is this your husband or boyfriend?
My fiance.
Fiance? Is he a pretty good guy?
Yeah.
What happened over at Moonflower?
Well, I was just really stressed this morning, trying to get a lot of work done, and I was apologizing to him. I had thrown a bunch of stuff in the back, and all our bags are back there. I was just apologizing. I was like, I'm sorry that I get so stressed out because I have OCD, and I was just like organizing stuff, and sometimes I just have a mean attitude, but I'm not trying to be.
do you want to pause it?
About just straightening things up and stuff.
So she's the one with OCD, but yet all the groceries are thrown around in the back. This doesn't jive with me. This is Brian having a fit again, throwing everything in the van. Like, you saw how disheveled the back of the van.
Yep.
Gabby keeps everything clean and neat, and it plays into her OCD. But I think Brian that day, they had a sale on melons.
Yeah.
Guess who loves melons? Our melon boy. So I have a feeling that part of the fight or the blow up was Brian throwing stuff into the back of the van, and here's Gabby taking the blame, this is really hard for me to watch.
Susan, about this question about Dog the Bounty Hunter, it's really hard for me to watch too, by the way. About Dog the Bounty Hunter, he said that he didn't do that. Somebody else did it for him, and said it was him, and he wishes he would have done that. And Kathy saying, how would the cops have acted if they were black? Kathy, this is a great question, because I got pulled over about 3 years ago, and I was going quite a bit over the speed limit by accident because it was a work zone and I didn't realize it. And I remember feeling perfectly cool, calm, and collected. And my friend that was with me, it was another pastor, and we were traveling to a pastor's conference. And once the cop left, I told him, I said, man, I didn't feel fear or anxiety at all about being pulled over. And it kind of broke my heart to think that that's a real tension that exists. And so there's something to that. I think Gabby and Kyla knew each other. Yes, John, we've been saying that, and it's something that we definitely think is plausible and possible. This is hard to watch, Gavis. It's hard to watch, but I like getting to see the other perspective. And I've been saying it since the beginning. You know it because you've been on these streams with me. You've been saying it. I've been saying it. This police officer, to me, went too far with what he was saying and was making it about things he shouldn't have been making it about. Let's continue watching.
Yeah, Brett could have changed this whole situation. He really could have.
I was just apologizing, but I guess I said it in a mean tone, and he got really frustrated with me, and he locked me out of the car and told me to go take a breather, but I didn't want to take a breather because I wanted to get going. We're out of water.
So it kind of made you more upset.
Yeah,
it didn't help calm you. It made you more upset.
Yeah. And,
so then what happened?
And so our goal was to come here and come refill our water.
Are you guys living out of the van right now on travels?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it was just really.
So what happened after he locked you out? I told you to take a breather.
Well, he walked away to go take his own breather, but I wanted to sit in the car because all my stuff was in the car. I had none of my bags. I was working on something at the moment in the car, and he told me to just relax for a second, and I didn't want to relax, so I got really mad. And, I don't need to be mad.
Yeah, it happens. Then what happened?
And then I told him to drive and get water because I'm really thirsty.
Yeah. Is there something on your cheek here? Looks like did you get hit in the face? Kind of looks like something like hit you in the face. And then over on your arm, shoulder, right here. That's new, huh? It's kind of a new mark.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Can I see the other side of your face? So, what happened here and here?
Tyler, your mic.
This goes back to what we were saying in the beginning, earlier in the beginning, that you could have taken a screenshot of the other body cam footage and noticed the marks on her body, on her arm and on her face. And so we, for some reason, we're like, why did they ignore it? And because the other body cam footage, there's not a direct conversation about it. We are seeing with this police officer a direct conversation about this.
Yeah, the other thing I don't like is this Brett guy is really quite close. And when you're really close to somebody and you're interrogating them, you put even more anxiety on them. And that's why people crack, right? When you see people interrogate, they want to be a foot and a half away from you so they can really get you. Yeah. And I think he's too close to Gabby at this point, and he already can see that she's got anxiety.
Right.
Brett could have changed this whole situation when he rolled up on Brian. If he would have made Brian stay with him, this would all be over. I promise you.
Lil Swazo, thanks for the super chat. I mean, we noticed that it often, there's sometimes when she's smiling, you can't even see her eyes. Oftentimes you could tell like maybe she's been crying. Kathy saying perfect 10. Yes. So let's go back. I mean, this is incredibly hard to watch. It's going to give us some more clues about possibly where Brian is at though. And so we're watching it and digesting it.
Can we not?
I'm not sure it was a I was just trying to get in the back of the car and his backpack was on the back. And it got me.
So the backpack got you? So there's two people that came to us and told us that they saw him hit you. There's two people saying that they saw him punch you. We're just independent witnesses by Moonflower.
Well, to be honest, I definitely hit him first.
Where'd you hit him?
I slapped him in the face.
You slapped him first? And then what, just on his face?
He just kind of just shut up.
How many times did you slap him?
Just a couple.
And then what? And then his reaction was to do what?
I hung around him so I wouldn't slap him.
He just grabbed you?
Yeah.
Did he hit you though? I mean, it's okay if you're saying you hit him, and then I understand if he hit you, but we want to know the truth if he actually hit you.
I guess, yeah, but I hit him first.
Where did he hit you? Don't worry, just be
He
honest.
like grabbed my face, like I guess. He didn't like hit me in the face, like he didn't like punch me in the face or anything.
Did he slap your face or what?
Well, like he like grabbed me like with his nail, and I guess that's why it was. I definitely have a cut right here, because I could feel it.
Yeah.
When I touched it, it burns. But
Okay. So has he been drinking?
no, we don't drink.
Okay. What was up with his driving? This officer said he hit a curb
I
while you're driving.
well, he was driving.
While he was driving, you were hitting him,
Well, not a lot, but yeah.
and that was distracting him while he's driving. Are you?
Not only for like a second, no, because I saw the lights come on, and I like kind of like.
Did you already tell him all this?
I didn't get that far into
Okay,
it. She was hyperventilating.
She's
a
saying
little
that they don't drink, but at the point when you lit them up,
We don't drink or anything. I was
hitting you.
I was yelling at him, and then when you turned your lights on, I like kind of punched it on, like there's
so
any.
she's saying was why he hit the curb. You said it was Gabby? I'm sorry, I'm really bad. Name was Gabby.
Yeah.
Okay. You okay, Gabby? Do you have medication for anxiety you take or anything? Do you take any medication for any?
I just do yoga and
Try to meditate and stuff, but you tend to have a lot of anxiety and stress.
I have a lot of anxiety.
And what's his name? Is it Brian? Is he usually pretty patient with you?
Yeah, but it just makes me upset. I know that he definitely gets frustrated with me a lot because I have a lot of anxiety, and he definitely has anxiety too.
Oh, that could be a bad.
It's definitely clear they both had anxiety, and it's one of the questions in speculating around, like, were either of them on medicine? She answered it just then that she wasn't medicated. Vortex has a chat for you. It says, we know Brian's posting the dark side of Gabby if it was Brian posting the dark side of Gabby to her pages. Do we know that? I mean,
No, I just think that I mean, they read Lullaby to each other at night when they're camping. That's why I said that earlier, is that she had to share some glory in it too. Like, you see her do the Harley Quinn pose with the gun. You see a little bit of it, right? So I don't want to deep dive into all of that right now. There's a time and a place to go right through this entire timeline. So.
Well, just a quick answer to that question, and I think Deborah says it best when she says it's so sad. We had another super chat from Tiffany. Tiffany, thank you for the super chat. Could have paid someone to hide him in a camper during that trip. Our stays hooked up with slides out front. He could have gone out not seen. Have to see a warrant if pulled over, and it's possible. I mean, he could have. That was definitely possible. Fran says, such a beautiful young woman. This is tragic. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to watch. It does give us more indication and clues about some of the stuff that was happening.
Yeah,
We both have anxiety. You know, I have anxiety too, and you know, my girlfriend's really calm, and she has a way of taking my anxiety and bringing it down. But my ex-wife, that's why she's my ex-wife. I'm just sharing. I know it's a little personal, but to help you understand, we would feed off each other's anxiety and it would spiral. You know what I mean? And it doesn't matter how much I loved her. It may be bad for your soul. Just saying. I'm not telling you what to do with your life, but if you know you have anxiety, look at the situations you can get in. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we're not here to be mean to you or anything. Well, you know, there's a first time, and then it usually. We'll go see what Brian's saying, but I think you've heard everything now from.
Quick question. You said you were hitting him in the arm. Did you actually?
Okay. You want to come stand in the shade?
You can get another call, man.
Yeah, I know the struggle. So you don't drink or anything?
No.
Okay. So you were talking to these officers, and I don't mean to butt in. I just felt kind of bad for you. Maybe even if you stand here, you'll have more shade.
I don't want to be weirdo ducking down, but
no, I know how it is.
I have a big sombrero.
Well, from when I first got here, we were more worried about what kind of a guy you are from what we heard. But in talking to your girlfriend, it sounds to me like maybe this is not so clear cut. So, did you already give a statement to this officer?
I got to this gentleman here.
Yeah. And this gentleman noticed that you had some marks on your neck. Yeah. And she's got some marks on her too. So we're just trying to figure out what all happened. And I know you've probably already told your story. This officer is probably going to be the one handling the whole case. Do you want to listen to what he has to say? And
yeah,
absolutely. And then you tell him what happened, will you? If you don't mind.
Start at the beginning for me.
See if it sounds the same.
I'm going to turn my car, get this noise out here.
No, leave your office on. It'll be hot there.
You can definitely tell the female officer's looking concerned.
Food around the zone of the house. We take those to a pump. Thanks. Thank you. You think that you liar? Oh no! Apparently they don't even drink. She says that he hit the curb because when Officer Roberts turned his lights on, she started punching him because of the trouble they're in. So the relationship's going well. Yeah. He can drink some water. Thanks. Doesn't seem super cold, but maybe. You want Gatorade? You want water? I got some water.
Yeah, do you have water?
Prefer water?
I'm sorry, I only drink water.
I don't blame you.
They said that cop that we're watching the body cam footage of is on leave.
Are you worried about her story? No. You can talk to her. She seems like a really sweet girl, 22 or something. Has a lot of anxiety, and from what she's claiming, she's the full-on aggressor here. Yeah, that's kind of what he said. I'd love to go talk to the independent witnesses, and maybe that's what I'll go do. Okay. Yeah, there's a couple of waters. Here's this back, because you might need that for someone else.
Another key rings, the phone, And I was holding on to the keys because I didn't want to go anywhere. And my big fear is, I don't have my phone. I don't have a phone. So she goes off without me. But it's all right. I'm on my own. So I was saying, let's just go for a walk. And she was trying to get the keys for me. So I was just going, just wait back up. And that's when she hit me. And I didn't get
Did I hear him correctly? Did he say he doesn't have a phone? Like, we just want to rewind about a few seconds. Did he say, I don't have a phone? If I'm not with her, we don't have a way to communicate?
I didn't want to go anywhere. And my big fear is, I don't have my phone. I don't have a phone. So she goes off without me. But it's all right. I'm on my own. So I was saying, let's just go for a walk. And she was trying to get the keys for me. So I was just going, just wait back up.
I don't know who that cop's texting.
And I didn't get, I don't want to push you, but I didn't get
He's probably trying to get back to the contact.
And not get it. And then I got really loud.
Called it in.
Back up, get away, just get me.
Okay, so you said you pushed her to create some distance, obviously, right? What happened after that? What got distracted?
Okay, Google.
They're hiding what's on the phone.
It's probably the contact.
Man. Gavis, this is hard to watch, isn't it?
I had to go for a cigarette.
Police, how are you?
You guys are about to see me cry online.
Hey, we got this van stopped, and we've separated the male and the female, and we got both of their stories. Now that we're not looking for them so intensely, I was just wondering if you had a minute to just kind of repeat to me what it is exactly you saw.
Wow. Wow.
No problem, sir. Yeah, so I was talking to my friend across the street near the Forest Service building, and I just noticed that this couple was sort of arguing a bit, and I wasn't staring at them, but it did catch my attention. And what I noticed is it seemed like they were sort of squabbling over a phone. I want to say that he was trying to grab her phone, and I'm not sure exactly why. And then it seems like he had sort of blocked the one side of the van and sort of wasn't letting her in. And then the male was stepping into the driver's seat, and she was trying to get into the van. I think she said something about, why are you being so mean, something like that. And I remember she sort of hit him a few times, and it wasn't like slugs in the face, but just kind of like two kids kind of fighting. They reminded me of very secure, I don't know, children sort of fighting. But there seemed like something was off, and it seemed like a weird vibe. And eventually it seemed like she crawled into the driver's seat, sort of like got into the vehicle over his lap, sort of forced her way in, I guess. And then they were in the car, and then they just drove away. So I wasn't sure what the nature of the argument was or what. It just seems like there was some sort of disagreement and some sort of like shutting. I don't know why she would have entered through the driver's door. I thought that was strange. So I thought about calling it in, but as soon as I walked in this bar, there was another gentleman who was already calling it in. So I was like, oh, good on you. That seemed a bit off. I wasn't sure what to do in that situation, but that's what I saw. And if there's any other specific questions, I'm happy to try to answer.
Did you ever see the male strike the female?
I would say that I think I saw maybe a push or a shove, but not like a full-on punch to the face.
So the question was, do you see a strike, which is much more intentional, I guess, or deeper? And he said, no, I saw what did he say? A push or a shove. It must have been bad enough to call have you ever called, what is it in USA? It's 911. Is it 911 in Canada, or is there something else?
It's 911 in Canada as well.
Have you ever called 911? I've only been to Canada once. Have you ever called 911 because you saw a disturbance on the street? I never have. And if
I was usually the disturbance on the street.
They were calling on you. So for me, when I'm listening to it, like this guy called 911 because it was bad enough. And so like the word strike is pretty hard language, but like Lisbeth, when he said, I saw a push or a shove, it's upsetting as Mama Bear says, because this beautiful girl's no longer on this planet. This is heartbreaking. They call the witness. These are things we didn't know about. They're calling the witness back. I didn't know about this. They're calling the witness back.
Or anything.
Was the shove was the shove or push an aggression towards her, or was it a defensive maneuver away from her, or to get her away from him?
That's a good question. It was unclear what was going on to me, but it did seem like he was. It seemed like he was trying to close off the passenger side of the vehicle and close things up. It almost seemed like he put that backpack or something on the back of the vehicle. I'm not sure. And then he was stepping in and she was out trying to get in. So maybe.
Okay.
I don't. It was the whole thing was off, and so no, I didn't see anything that was like him chasing after her or hitting her or vice versa. It was kind of light, and they were almost kind of laughing, and I wasn't sure if they were just joking around, to be honest. But then it got more strange as he was in the vehicle about to drive off.
But you did see her slapping him, though. It sounds like.
Yes, it was like my memory is he was in the driver's seat, and she has the driver's door open, and she's like kind of hitting him either in the arm or maybe on the face, maybe with an open hand, like, hey, let me in, don't be a jerk, something like that.
Okay. Well, you know, your story is really, really helpful because you're an independent witness, and we've just interviewed both of them, and what you're saying is making everything make a lot of sense. So I really appreciate that I ran into you and that I was able to get your number and talk to you. So thank you very much. If we need to ask for a written statement, obviously it's voluntary, it's helpful, but at this point I don't know if we need to go that far unless you're around and super willing at this moment. I can meet you and get a statement.
Yeah, no, I live here, totally willing to do that.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Maybe I'll just go. Yeah, I can go write it down now before memory fades. Because, like I said, I was kind of just casually observing, but something did seem off, and just wanted to make sure that no one was in a bad situation. So.
Where can we find you to give you a form real quick?
I assume he's telling his
About
address
10,
right
15
now.
Minutes.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
So what's your breakdown, Gabby, of that call that he had with the witness?
I think this was actually the second witness. There was a report of a guy that saw the incident that drove by in a truck. And he said that he was going to get out and straighten Brian out if this escalated any more than it was about to, or what it looked like it was going to. So I don't believe that that's the guy reporting or talking to Brett. So I think this might have been somebody else that was probably further away, maybe somebody on the street from a distance that they got a hold of.
Okay. Because I have that.
Because he saw on the phone where he was saying, I thought somebody else was calling it in too, right? So that right there should have told this guy, Brett, that, whoa, there's two people into this. Like, and Brett to go back and basically accuse Gabby of assault is ridiculous. She's 100 pounds.
We did play the witness statement, and I can put up the witness statement once we're through with this video. I don't want to stop the video to do that quite yet, but the witness statement at the end of it, the sentence that stuck out to me most, the witness statement was that the person feared the worst. They feared that the worst would happen. Okay. And that to me is really challenging. Okay. So I wonder what he's going to do now, what kind of conversation he's going to have with his fellow police officers.
Hey, Robin. So I just got a phone with one of the two witnesses, and I recorded it. Do you want me to tell you what he said real quick? Do you mind hanging with him for a minute? So, I think we'll get away from both of them. So, he said that he never saw the male strike the female. He saw the male trying to lock her out of the vehicle. She even told us that he was trying to lock her out, told her to go take a walk, and that she was trying to get in. She eventually couldn't get in and actually clawed her way in through the driver's door. He says, I don't understand why she's doing that. Well, I think it's because it was the only door that wasn't locked that she could get through. So she's trying to get in over him. he's trying to disengage from her. I guess he hung her backpack on the back probably so she'd have her shit so that he didn't have to engage with her. Everything she's saying is the same thing. I haven't heard what he said, but if that's what he said, it's also what the witness is saying. The witness says, I never saw him hit her. I saw him shove her, but I couldn't tell if it was an aggression against her or a defense against her as far as her, being the aggressor. So at this point, unless the guy's screaming that he needs to go to jail and did something to this girl, it sounds to me like she is the primary aggressor.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with her being the primary aggressor is in incidents of domestic assault, be it a male or be it a female, we shall arrest. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean they have to go to jail. We can do a citation if it meets one of 3 criterion, which one of them is that we can ensure that they're not going to further risk each other's safety. But the problem with that is they live in the same vehicle.
That's what I was going to say. The other part of it is
there was actually been injury to the victim, which is him.
Right, and I'm getting conflicting stories about why they hit the curb up here.
What did he say why he hit the curb?
Well, I watched, this is what I saw. Saw him cross the double yellow. I was doing 42 miles an hour.
And this police officer you could see it on his face, I guess you couldn't see his face, but you could see it by his reaction. He let out an actual gasp whenever he sees Brian go on the curb, which is about what he's going to describe right now.
I was, probably 2 car lengths behind him, tapping my wheels at him, trying to get his attention. They knew I was behind him. And then after he crossed the double yellow, merged over into the right lane, and then out of nowhere, his phone went in.
So did he tell you why?
He said that she grabbed the wheel and turned it real hard. She said that she was hitting him in the arm. So
sounds legit. I mean, I'm sure if I'm driving and my arm's on the wheel and I'm getting hit in the arm, I'm probably pulling out the wheel.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was a little of both. I mean, usually the truth is somewhere in between. He's probably trying not to say that he hit her because he probably doesn't want her charged with assault, domestic assault. He probably would rather say she pulled the wheel than hit him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, unfortunately for her, we cannot treat, just because he's bigger and stronger, even if he's not willing to press charges, we can't treat this differently than if it was a male and female violence.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to charge her. And we can do a citation if there's some arrangement that can be made to separate them. And then we have to let them know that there's no contact order in effect. And then we have to let him know the only way to drop it is to go into the police department during business hours and fill out a waiver, which, by the way, what's today? Thursday? So it won't be till tomorrow. And they're only there till noon, I think.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure he's going to want to drop it.
Well, the other part of it is they said they've been on 4 or 5 months that they've been looking at the bank together.
Well, this is really bad news, so let's talk to him first. Hey, thanks, Brian.
It felt like he was trying to find a way to make more sense of it in that situation to me. Gavis, what do you think about that little exchange he had with the other police officer?
One word: incompetence.
Well, you heard it from Gavis, folks. Incompetent. Is this the moment when we see the facial reaction?
Tyler, can I bring up a point?
Yeah.
So the eyewitness was saying that he thought they might be fighting over the phone. This is why we deep dive into things.
Yep.
Brian had a lot more control over her phone than people understand.
Yep.
He had control over her posts.
Yep.
He had control over a lot of things. That was his only control. Gabby had all the money. Brian goes nowhere if Gabby doesn't support this trip. And then for him to say that he has no phone, why would he be at the Moonflower fighting over Gabby's phone? Do you see how manipulative this motherfucker is? Like, sorry, I swore.
Yeah. We gotta be careful of the language on this.
But that's the first time I've ever done that. But that's how angry I am right now. If Brett would have stayed at the window when he first rolled up on Brian would have cracked right there. I could see it in Brian's facial expressions and his body language. He was
scared.
He was about to crack. Brett could have cracked him right there.
He was
That's why I'm
scared.
so mad.
Yeah. He was absolutely scared. And I think this might be, I might be wrong, It could be in a few minutes. This might be the scene that's going to come up, but it could be the scene where he finds out that he's the victim here. I don't know. No one's going to like that if we see that, but that could be what's about to happen.
Did you ask him yet and take pictures of him? Yeah. Okay. So Brian, unfortunately, in the state of Utah, we don't have discretion on some things. Like, for example, if I pull you over for speeding and I want to give you a warning, I can do that because it's under a Class A. It's a Class B or under. If I want to give you warnings for all kinds of stuff, I can. But there's
Just
a
a
few
quick
things I
note right
can't.
here.
Like, when I say I, the police, I'm not in charge of it.
What are you saying?
When Brian is like trying to represent that he's strong, he puts his chin up like that, and just body language to tell, right? So he's leaning against the car, he's relaxed, chin up. This body language is screaming at me right now, guys.
The body language experts say that whenever a man is standing like that he's feeling insecure and is trying to hide something. That's the stance for men who are trying to hide something. So in this moment, what we see right now is we see Brian likely trying to hide something. And okay, let's see. Let's keep watching.
One of the things that the state legislature doesn't give us discretion on is charges when it comes to a domestic assault. And it sounds like you guys are living together, so you meet the statute for domestic partners, and you do have injury, and both an independent witness, probably the next one we're going to talk to as well, which we haven't talked to yet, but the one we did talk to, and your own companion have made it clear that she was the primary aggressor and that she was striking you and that you received injuries. You haven't admitted to striking her. She has not admitted to you striking her. The witness did not see you strike her. So at this point, you're the victim of a domestic assault that even if you didn't want to pursue this, we don't have a choice. The best thing we could do to not, the law says we have to charge her. It doesn't say we have to put her in jail. Okay, but it also says we have to separate, do a no contact order, and then we have to put her in jail if we cannot separate. And there's a little problem here is you guys live out of Florida living in the van together. How are we supposed to separate you guys? Now, I don't want to take this small 20, what is she?
Yes, a 22-year-old
female in jail that you could definitely defend yourself against. But at the same time, we can't say because you're a male and she's a female, we can't treat this different than if you were the male hitting her. We got to treat it the same.
Yeah, no.
So she's kind of in a tough spot. So unless you have an idea about how she can not go to jail and be separated, do you have friends in town? Somewhere she can stay? Tomorrow, if you want to, it's up to you. You can
go to jail?
You can't because we don't have a charge for you. Now tomorrow, if you wanted to get with her again tomorrow,
I'm gonna take your radio.
if you want to be with her again tomorrow, because it's after 5, so our office is closed, so you can go to the police department, fill out a waiver to drop the no contact order, so you guys can still be together. But she's gonna have a court date online in a week or two. She's gonna have to show up for her court date online and answer. The prosecutor might drop it. They might say for example, if you're not willing to pursue it, if that's your decision.
Anyway, I was going to say, it definitely is. I'm not going to pursue anything. She's my fiance. I love her. It's just a little squabble. I'm sorry that I had to get so public. So I just want to get like the checklist of things I got to do to get rid of it. So
if you want her back, well, she'll get a paper with a court date.
How do I get rid of it?
Well, the court date has to be attended in order for them to decide whether they need to continue or drop it. The first is just an initial appearance to say, are you who we think you are? Yes. Do you understand the charge that's been brought against you? Yes or no? Yes or no? The answer. Do you have an attorney? Yes or no? Do you need one? And then from there, she can ask to speak to the prosecutor. The prosecutor might be contacting you and say, hey man, I know she's 110 pounds soaking wet and you're a big strong guy, and we understand you're not even wanting to pursue this, but the cops have to follow the statute. What in the interest of you, if justice for you as a victim, what do you think? And they can decide to still prosecute her, or they can decide to drop it, or they can decide to give her a plea and make it kind of go away if she behaves from now on. But that still does not eliminate the first court appearance that she has to attend, which thankfully for you guys is going to be online. So you don't have. So if you're out of town, here's the thing: if you're out of town and she doesn't come into our court appearance online, they can suspend her driver's license. They can issue a warrant for her. So she needs to play ball and go.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And we're a team. Me and her are a team. I'm sorry about all this. I apologize again. But so she's got her online court date just to acknowledge that she's hurt, and then she's got the one for the
Well, there's automatically right now there's something called a no contact order in place.
Yeah,
From this point forward.
If you guys don't mind, just comment what are you guys thinking about this? Like what are your thoughts? We have hindsight is 2020. We have retroactive ability to see what is going on here, but Jamie and I are on the same page. When I'm watching this, it's hard not to be upset about it. It's hard. Donna says he's acting all proud. He's got his chest puffed out. I wonder if the cop's in a situation like Lisa saying, how is this cop feeling now? How is the cop feeling now in this situation? Is the cop at the end of the day saying I did everything I could do? Is the cop saying like, wow, there's some major warning signs that I didn't realize I was blinded to?
I think that you're on mute.
Man.
I think right now that Brett is just he's more focused on the process and the actual letter of the law, and this is where it gets delicate. I guess to pick this up, you would have he should have been on Brian from the start, in my opinion.
I agree.
Forward until tomorrow. If you wish to drop it, you have to go into the 217 East Center Street, Moab City Police Department, and you have to ask them. We'll give it to you. You want to fill out a waiver that you're requesting a waiving of the contact order, the no contact order. The no contact order means she cannot come into contact with you. She cannot talk to you. She cannot text you. She cannot go onto any premises that you're occupying. She cannot go to your vehicle. And until you drop that, or until court date, if you don't drop it, it stays in effect until midnight on the day of court. And then that gives you time to get a protective order, a long-term one, if you feel like you need one. But it sounds like you don't even want this one. So tomorrow, they open at 8. You can go in the police department. You can fill out the waiver. They can remove it. Then you can say, hey, babe, where you at? Let me pick you up. And you can pick her up. Now, we're hoping not to put her in jail, but if she doesn't have somewhere to go tonight to be separate from you, then where are we supposed to
I can't talk to her now because the separation.
Because there's no contact order now.
So tell me this. Do you guys have enough money for like a hotel room or anything like that? Because what we could do is we'd cite her for this, and then I'd give her a ride over to whatever hotel you guys is choosing.
You can pick her up there tomorrow if you want to drop the no contact.
On your way to go pick her up, you stop over there at the PD, sign the paperwork that they're requesting, and then you can go pick her up right there.
Diana, thank you for your super chat. The way that I understand the body cam footage from the other police officer was at the end of the day, they decided to drop any kind of charge at all, and then they separate the two of them. But at this point in the juncture, it's only a part of the way through this conversation, and they haven't got there yet. And so as we keep watching, that's going to come out. But I don't think there ends up being any kind of court date. I think the police say we'll separate you, and that's going to be the issue for the day.
Unless you know someone else in town that's a friend that she can stay with.
Yeah, no, unfortunately not. I don't, and I guess that.
Man, I sure hate to. I don't want her to go to jail.
Will it be if she goes to jail? It's like that goes down somewhere instead of her going to a hotel, right? If you get a citation, it would be.
It kind of depends. So if she goes to jail, they're gonna book her. And they'll take her fingerprints. It's gonna go on her criminal history, and then if they don't convict her, then it will just show that it was dismissed. It will show up on her criminal history, but the charge was dismissed. If she was found guilty, it will show up as she was guilty of domestic assault. But the charge itself will show up on her criminal history until she gets it expunged. Now, even if we give her a ticket, we're still going to take a fingerprint, and it's still going to show up. Either way, it's still going to show up. There's no way around a Class A. Or is this Class B?
This is Class B.
But they do require a fingerprint on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
the other part is if you contact her and she contacts you, she can be charged with a Class A.
Well,
which is a little bit different, but it doesn't help us.
If you were to contact her and she responds to you, then she could get a new charge for violating the no contact order. No contact order doesn't restrict you; it restricts her. So if you go talk to her and we find out you're not in trouble, she'll be in trouble. So it's in your interest to. Does that all make sense?
No, I'm getting it all.
It's a lot,
really quick. No, I'm getting it. I'm just trying to figure out a way.
You don't know anyone in town? You guys been here how long?
No, I don't know anyone in town. If she went,
She could. I don't think Sea Cave will take her when she's the aggressor.
no.
It is a women's shelter.
I'm curious.
You can find out. Say, hey, she doesn't have where to go.
If you did the citation, she like say she drove off she could drive off in this car.
We could give you a ride somewhere.
I got my backpack.
It sucks for you, but
I got my backpack.
You can spend a night.
You want to drive me to Delicate Art?
Does she have a good driver's license? And
She does a driver's license. Yeah.
you trust her with your vehicle? And
Yeah, she can handle it.
well, then you'd kind of be homeless for the night.
Christine, I think that's a balanced view of this situation, and I appreciate it, because you're saying, like, listen, it does feel like they created a bro club with Brian, and I've said that in other videos. It's like they could clearly relate to him in the situation. However, they didn't have a crystal ball, and so I do appreciate your insight on that. John, thank you for the super chat too. You're asking me to share your comment from September 25th. I don't know that comment. If you email it to me again, please email it to me again, and that would be helpful. Stins with the super chat. Thank you, Stins, with the super chat. He said, of course, here is this police officer blowing snot rockets, and just a visual representation. What you think going on? Bill saying Brian is the one that has marks on him. They don't have a crystal ball to know what might happen. Cops did nothing wrong. And from my perspective, we wish they would have been better trained in mental health. We wish they would have been better trained in DV. There's a lot going on here that I think the Moab Police Department is investigating. I asked somebody that I'm friends with that has a understanding of how sort of police officers handle these situations, and he stuck up for the police, and he said that they were handling the situation to the best of their ability. Again, everybody's saying they don't have a crystal ball. It's something that's important to note, because nobody knew that this was going to happen. But John is saying this. Brian is playing these cops like a fiddle. It's like, to me, whenever I listen to what Brian's saying, he's being overly friendly. He's being, anything they want, automatically agreeing to what they're saying. Once he realizes he's not in trouble, he's saying, can I go to jail? He's trying to diffuse the situation. And so I think that Brian is playing them. I think he knows what he's doing a little bit more than that. Gavis, what are your thoughts on how Brian specifically how's Brian's interaction in this situation?
I just want to show everybody I'm wearing orange for Reconciliation Day. Brian got super lucky, and that's just he just got super lucky. If this Brett's impressive. Like, if he would have stayed with Brian initially, I think that Brian couldn't have walked his way out of it. And yes, Brian did walk his way out of this. He was initially talking to Brett, and then Daniel hit him from the other window, so he was able to deflect that initial response, that fear, flight or flight, whatever response.
Fight or flight, yeah.
Yeah, and Daniel saved him from that. So everyone's at fault here in some sort of way, and Brian is the benefactor of it.
Wow. Well, we have Tina who's joined the call. Tina, thank you for joining us. What are your questions?
Thanks for having me. Actually, I have a couple of inputs. I was a police officer for 10 years, and the fact that they didn't pick up on his demeanor, anybody that's fidgety, doesn't matter what the circumstances are, even though they were in this altercation with that fidgety, that's a telltale. The fact that he mentioned he didn't have a phone, then he did. She's constantly with that defending him mentality. I think had they had the female officer sit with her a little longer and press her a little harder and pull him aside and press him more, I think more would have come out of it.
I also agree. I think that if the female officer at that scene was with Gabby and not right in Gabby's face like Brett was,
right,
I think that could have potentially been a different outcome as well. No matter what Brian did over on this side, I think that would have lessened the anxiety in Gab, and she would have been able to calm down and get her point out more succinctly.
Yeah, you made that point earlier about giving her that space because you don't want to overpower. You want to kind of kneel down, let them know they're okay, they're not in any trouble, so they will open up. Because
Exactly.
if they're already in a bad situation, they're already scared. So you have to give them that little bit of space. And with him, it even especially when males are involved in a domestic dispute, that arrogance and that narcissistic mannerism that he has, some men don't pick up on it. Other females will pick up on it quicker than men will. So I'm surprised they also didn't have the female talk to him separately to pick up on it, because for whatever reason, most females can pick up on it quicker, especially those in law enforcement.
Do you think that if Brett would have rolled up on him and stayed with him, do you think there would have been a different outcome?
I totally 100% agree with you on that. Had that other officer not come to the other side of the window and he stayed with him, he definitely would have got him to say more than what he realized. Because he, at that moment, he was scared, like you said. And him staying in that scared manner, he would have said something he didn't mean to say.
Yep.
But I thank y'all both for what y'all are doing. Y'all come up with, y'all's timelines are phenomenal. And, you know, a lot of people don't understand how everything fits together. It takes time. You have to do a lot of research, and y'all have done a tremendous job putting all this together.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking and subscribing as well.
Absolutely. Good luck, guys. Take it easy.
Thank you. I appreciate that call from Tina and her perspective on it. And if you guys are watching, something you can do to help us, if you can hit the like button on the video, it helps send us into the algorithm. If you don't mind subscribing to the channel. Let's get back to this video for a bit.
And man, I can't talk to her at all.
Well,
and I've got to do the thing, so I can't go camping.
We can tell her what it is that she needs to do to get through all this, and then let her know what your plan is.
Here's the problem, though. If we take you up to Delicate Arch, you're going to be hoofing it from Delicate Arch all the way down to
Tyler, I'm
Center
going to
Street.
take about a 6-minute
you
break
got
if
that
you're going to keep
paperwork,
watching
'cause
this.
If you're not there by noon tomorrow,
They're
you're
closed
looking
at
at
noon
Monday
tomorrow
morning.
because it's early out Fridays over the office. So
Yeah.
you won't be there.
You'd be looking at Monday morning before you could actually see her again.
And again, we're not trying to make your life hard, but this is written in statute. There's
I
nothing
know, a
we
lot of
can do about it.
bureaucracy.
It's designed to protect victims of domestic assault. Not everybody's the same. This is different than normal, but we have to treat everything the same. And that's just how it is.
So do you think they can't afford a hotel?
No?
Very little money we have for sure.
Hotels are expensive here now.
You want me to? I'll call Sea Haven.
Just see if Sea Haven will take her for the night.
I'll see if they'll take either one of them. Because then we can figure it out.
It's just a women's shelter. Actually, Sea Haven will take him as a victim of domestic assault. Sea Haven will take you, and they will help you tomorrow.
And you're like a block and a half away from the PD.
Let's see if Sea Haven will take him because they actually put up. Actually, they didn't take a guy, but they got a hotel for a guy last time.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Sea Haven might get you a hotel. Okay. Now, what she does,
I might be sleeping outside in a sleeping bag.
No, no.
So, I don't need a hotel.
I think Sea
I'm just saying.
I think Sea Haven will get you a hotel. If you want her to have the van, we don't care. It's up to you. But there's nothing we can do about the rest.
I don't want to open my car. I'm just trying to think. I gotta grab my. I gotta make my little bag.
You sweating to death yet?
I think we're good.
You good? I'm gonna talk to you real quick, but I've been talking so much. I gotta get some water. I'll be right back. Let me grab water. Now this is the water. It's cold water. Oh yeah. Okay, Gabby. When you grow up and you're a full-grown man, this is what you'll drink from. Plus, it's ice cold, and so I'm gonna drink from it. Sorry. You'll probably never be a full-grown man. Then you can do your curls.
I guess he's
So,
trying to be funny.
Look, I'm going to speak to you frankly. I have a daughter almost your age, and I'm looking at you not so much like a suspect, but also as kind of a victim in the sense that you're dealing with some struggles emotionally and mentally at your age. Probably they'll work themselves out as you get older. There's a lot of angst at your age, and I remember being your age too. And hopefully it works itself out. But the stuff you did today that contributed to this, because you both contributed to this, is as a result of your inability to cope with the anxiety and the stress that you're having. So in a way, you're kind of a victim of this. I think you would have done better if you had the skills to do better. But you don't learn skills until you learn skills, and you don't have enough life experience yet to know how to navigate everything. Like, I don't either, but I can navigate what happened. If I was in your shoes, I could handle it different because I'm 39 years old. I've been through it. But I've got a lot of life lessons to learn still, because I'm like my dad and my grandpas, they know stuff I don't know, right? They can do stuff I don't know. So in a way, I'm just letting you know that we sympathize with you. But based on what you've said and based on what our witnesses said, and even based on what your fiance has mentioned, trying his very hardest not to have you in any trouble, he does have marks on him that witnesses say were caused by you slapping him. And that even you say you slapped him and were aggressing him first. And I don't have anyone saying that he actually punched you aggressively. It sounds like it was shoving in a manner that was probably more consistent with trying to prevent you from entering the van or to get space from you, not to assail you, if that makes sense. So if the tables were turned and he was beating on you and you were shoving him, of course we're going to look at it like, oh, of course she's defending herself to get away from this guy. Well, we're kind of looking at it the same way with him, and we have to treat both fair, even if he's a bigger male and you're a smaller female. The law doesn't say, hey, Officer Pratt and Officer Robbins, you can treat people different based on gender under the same. So we can't, even if it makes no sense that because you probably could not physically destroy this man the way that he could if he attacked you. We can't treat you different. Okay. So all that long-windedness I'm giving you right now is leading up to the fact that if I pull someone over for speeding, I have the right to give them a warning. I have something called officer discretion. But in the legislature in Utah, they have made a law that if we have a domestic assault, they don't trust the police to make good decisions because too many cops have made bad decisions. So they say, we're not going to give you discretion. We're going to write a law that says if you have a domestic assault, whether it's male on female or female on male, whoever the primary aggressor.
This is interesting for me to hear him explain this and his viewpoint on that. Officer discretion, specifically talking about DV and what happens there. Wow.
Super interesting that he has a daughter about Gabby's age. That's going in my timeline.
Man. She looks like she's fessed up something she didn't do. That is what she looks like. Thank you guys for sending in super chats. We're doing our best whenever they come in to answer them and put them on the screen. And thank you guys for liking the video, subscribing to the video. And to me, this part of this video is it's insightful and it's heartbreaking to hear and see.
Has to be charged. No choice. You don't get to give them a warning. Doesn't even matter if they've barely hurt at all and the guy doesn't want to press charges or the girl doesn't want to press charges. We don't have a choice. We literally have no choice. He does not want to press charges. He says you guys are a team. He says you're his fiance. He says he loves you. He says he doesn't want anything to happen. But we're explaining to him that we don't have any choice in this. So we're trying to get a local victims advocacy group called Seek Haven to get him a hotel for the night so that you can have the van, because they won't give you the hotel because you're the one who is the primary aggressor. So they're going to consider him the victim. So they're going to get him a hotel. So he wants you so that you don't have to go to jail, because the only thing we can do is take you to jail. He says, well, so she doesn't have to go to jail, then I will accept Seek Haven's help if they'll give me a hotel, and then she can have the van so she doesn't have to go to jail. She can just have a ticket. When you get the ticket, it's going to give you a phone number to call, and they're going to give you a court date, and that court date will probably be online.
I have to come back to Utah?
No, it'll be online. You have a smartphone?
Yeah.
So you can. I go to court. You're okay.
Sorry, I've never heard of this. I didn't know this was in
When
Utah.
COVID happened, they switched all the court from in person to online. So when I go to court now,
I have a ticket for hitting the curb or something, please, because we're okay. Like, where does it?
I understand, but we don't have any, listen, if I had any discretion in this, I would separate you guys for the day and just give you warnings to stop hitting each other.
Didn't he just say he had officer discretion? Now he's saying
don't have discretion here. I don't have any.
Because somebody said something, like a witness said something.
There's two witnesses, and then there's what you said and what he said, and guess what? It all matches nicely that you were the primary aggressor, and that the injuries he has were caused by your aggression towards him. Even if he doesn't feel hurt, even if he doesn't want to press charges, there's nothing any cop can do about it. It's written into the law.
I don't.
Normally, we take people to jail, but he's trying to work it so you can just have the van. Tomorrow,
I don't want to be separated.
you can have anxiety.
Yeah, no, we're a team, please.
There's no us? What is that?
No, like, we're a team, please. He's gonna give me so much anxiety. Can we just have like a driving ticket?
Hey, the very best thing I can do is call my supervisor and see if I'm missing something.
So many people are asking how come he doesn't call the supervisor. It sounds like he's going to.
Okay, Gabby, try to calm down, and I'm going to go call a supervisor. But I don't think that there's much I can do. But let me see if the supervisor can tell me something I'm missing to make this not happen.
I couldn't handle that. I'm sorry.
Okay, just give me a minute, okay? You don't have to sit out in the hot sun unless you want. Okay.
Is the female park ranger wearing a body cam footage? Because I would like that to be released. I would want to know what that conversation is. Stephanie's asking the question, why is she really crying? She's having a bit of a panic attack, it sounds like, looks like.
She knows what it means to get in a criminal charge like that.
So he's going to call the supervisor. I wonder if they block out this phone call or they leave it in. Gets in the car, calls the supervisor. Many people are asking, does he talk to the supervisor? Apparently, he's calling the supervisor right now. The cops, people are saying the cop needs to be under review. The cop is under review currently.
Hey, so a tiny little girl, 22 years old, slapped her boyfriend, her fiance, several times. He's got a little bit of a little tiny abrasion on his chin, on his jaw. They got into a van and drove off. He got called in by two different, there's one caller and then a witness. Got them stopped. The story from the witnesses matches the story from the female, matches the story to the male. She was pissed off. She's having a rough day. He tries to separate from her. She's not staying away from him. She has severe anxiety problems. He locks her out of the van, says, you need to go for a walk and cool off. She's forcing her way into the van. She's clawing her way past him into the van to be with him. He's shoving her to get her out of the van, but he's not assaulting her or he's not assailing her. He's trying to keep her out. She's punching, slapping, everything. She's got to be 105 pounds soaking wet, 22, full of anxiety, having a really tough time. Not making excuses, but I mean, it is written into code. We do have a domestic assault here. He's not wanting to pursue it. He's very adamant. He does not want to pursue it. We're explaining we don't have any discretion on these things. We're giving him a no contact. We're letting Seek Haven see if they can get him a hotel so she can have the van so that we don't have to put her in jail. She's really struggling with the idea of being alone and not with him and not having the van. They want to be together. I told her, look, there's not anything I can do. This is all written into freaking statute. I just said the last thing I can do is call a supervisor and see if where this is such a minor. There's like a slap fight, and the injury is from a fingernail. I just don't know if it's worth the whole domestic thing or not, or if it's going to get some trouble if we don't do it this way. Well, they don't want to, but I told them that unless I get some kind of permission some other way, I'm pretty sure this is just statute and that we have to separate you.
Wow. Wow.
As far as the domestic assault charge, what do you think about that?
Wow.
Well, I mean, do the whole thing or not? But is there a way to not do anything on something like this? I mean, it's so minor. It's hard to say, right?
So minor.
I'm going to go reread the statute and just see if it fits or if there's a way it doesn't fit. And if I can find a way that, because it really is this, the spirit of the law is being lost on this one. It really is. So let me see if I can find it. If nothing else, then we'll have to separate it whether she likes it or not. All right, thanks. Okay, thanks.
Do you want to stop it for a sec?
Sure.
Even there, he says it, right? Even the spirit of the law is being lost on this one. So even the chief plays a role in this as well.
I thought he was saying it like oppositely, like, hey, this, we really shouldn't have them on anything, right? But
exactly. He said, if you're going to do it, do it. If you're not, don't.
Is this, I mean, like, this is a difficult, I mean, we've already watched the body cam footage from the other angle, and this one was really the one that, this one seems like more convincing, or, you know, I don't know if that's probably not the right word, but this one seems like there's more to it than the other one that we were watching. The question about who gets the van and all that, I think that's very interesting. And somebody's talking about, well, there's marks on her. We saw the marks on her. That was clear.
But she also got Brian pretty good, thank God. Because he's, if you look at the other officer's camera, Daniels.
Yeah.
She got him good on the left side of his head. He was still bleeding right there. So good on her. And that's 45 minutes after they had the confrontation at the Moonflower.
Yeah, this is 45
well
minutes.
More than that. Well more than that, actually. This is, now that we're getting to the hour-long interrogation plus the 45. So this is like almost 2 hours later. He's still bleeding. So good on Gab.
Dana's saying trauma bonded. That's an actual thing that happens, unfortunately. Tina says they lost focus on trying not to arrest her. They really tried to do right. As these are rolling, as the stream is rolling in, and as we are getting to hear more, it's called battered women's syndrome, similar to Stockholm syndrome, and that's why she doesn't turn him in. I have not heard of battered women's syndrome. I'm familiar with Stockholm syndrome, which is basically you have an affinity for, you know, for the person that had been abusing you, and I guess some of the trauma bonding or the battered women syndrome that you guys are talking about. I mean, that's what's happening in this situation. That's what's happening in this situation. Matt, thank you for joining us. I know you've emailed me a few times, and I appreciate you joining, and you have some insight. Perfect 10, thank you for saying congrats on the Matt, on the super us. Chat. I know you've emailed me a few times, and I appreciate you joining, and you have some insight. Okay. If you come into the chat, you got to make sure you have YouTube off. So I'm gonna take you off for a second, Matt. But thank you, Perfect 10, for the shout out on the super chats. It's been hard getting here, but I'm here, and there's been a lot of you that have supported it. My first super chat day is today, and everybody who's doing it, I really appreciate it. Thank you guys. Thank you for hitting like and subscribe. Also, Raphael, what's up, man?
Yeah, I got a bunch of problems with this video. Besides that, it's disturbing to watch again.
Tina, if you still have the link, why don't you get back on with us? Because I like having multiple perspectives, because I don't want to we're not going to just dog on police officers, and please be respectful and don't use foul language as you talk about it. But I like to hear all viewpoints to be balanced on it as well.
But yeah, I mean, he says he has no witnesses saying that him hitting her, but yet as he's pulling up, he's on the phone, and the report saying that the other witness saw him hit her. So he's already got that. The point of the fact of when he walked up under the window and scared the crap out of him, could have had him.
Can I stop you there? No, he doesn't have any report of it. He got Brian because Brian was doing 45 in a 15 zone.
No, I'm talking about this guy, this cam.
Yeah, I think what happened was Gabby was saying, well, he wasn't really hitting me. Instead, it was sort of just like a grab. I hit him first. So Gabby was the one who was deflecting on that situation. So,
well, the initial stop occurred, and this is why I want to clarify right now. The initial stop occurred because they were driving too fast through that turnout up to the rocks or whatever that they were going to go hike at or get water from. And when he pulled out to pull him over for speeding, that's when he hit the curb, and he's like, okay, this is on now. They didn't get the report of the assault at the Moonflower until later, and then they called into the office to get the confirmation from the witness, and that's what Brett did, is he went back and talked to the witness.
Karen says if they would have checked the vehicle registration, they would have found out that the van was hers. And I think they knew the van was hers. I mean, the other officer ran the plates. Okay, Raphael, what's your other thought?
That and the part where they should have got him is when they asked him, or he asked the cops, you know, did she say anything bad about me? And that nervous laugh, that should have been a red flag as well.
Tina's shaking her head. Yes, Tina, is that what the insight you were trying to say was?
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it.
I mean, and then in my case of being in New York, when there's for being a police officer, if there's both signs of both parties hitting each other in the state of New York, they both go to jail, which would have, again, probably would have saved her.
What's your thoughts, Tina?
Well, yeah, it's the same here in North Carolina. Anytime there's a domestic dispute, they usually take both in. However, they had both sides saying the same thing, that she was more the aggressor. And that's what's so hard about this particular. They spent an hour on this whole call. We have 3 agencies tied up on one call for a domestic, and they're both saying the same thing. So that's where it kind of deflects to her, which I think that's when they lose a lot of focus in trying to, not wanting to arrest her. And I think they miss a whole bunch in between that because of that. It's not that they really did necessarily anything wrong. It's they just missed it. You had 3 or 4 agencies there. And I would have looked in the van. I would have been nosy, especially when you have that many people there and you can, pull your resources that way to kind of, hey, you mind if I take a look in the van? I don't think he would have denied it. And they could have probably picked up on a few more things that might have been going on.
Wow. Gavis, what are your thoughts on how the police, were maybe looking in the wrong area?
I just think we can look back on it now and see the unfortunate results of all this, but a lot of things could have been done better.
Yeah, hindsight's 20/20.
Exactly.
Agree.
Raphael, anything else?
Nope, that's it. Thank you, guys.
Tina, other thoughts?
Other than, they just, like I said, with 4 agencies on it, they spent over an hour on the call. I think they got kind of deflected with her being the aggressor, because they do have the discretion up to, depending on the state, what the charge is or the degree of the charge. Like in felonies in North Carolina, we have no discretion whatsoever. With domestics, it depends on who the aggressor is, and it's not sex related. It's one or the other. And even if he'd been the aggressor, she was going to not want him to be charged, which we get that a lot as well. So you have to they deal with this on a daily. They can arrest him 500 times. The female's going to say no and get him out of jail the next day. So they go through that whole recourse. But in this case, I really believe they did not want to arrest her. And before I even knew this was an issue, I saw the other video cam that came out. I didn't even know Gabby was missing at the time. I happened to see I think one of their things about their van life. And my first thought was, no, don't arrest her. And my first thing that I picked up on was that narcissistic temperament that he had, and how he laughed and said, she didn't say anything bad about me, did she? And then the phone, his temperament with his hands crossed in front of him like he's guarded, and just an arrogance about him. And I just think they didn't see it. And unfortunately, they didn't have much to go on because she wasn't giving them information either. she made herself look bad in the process by what her statements were trying to defend him.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like in the chat everybody's on the same page as you, Tina. Thank you for
Right.
calling in again.
Absolutely.
Shane says, if they knew it was her van, then why throughout this video are they acting like it's his van, giving him the choice of what happens to her van? I guess because they were both living in it. And, you know, I think we're to the point now, we're going to go back to watching this video for a second. We're to the point now where they're discussing how do we handle this situation and moving forward. And so that's the crux of the issue. We have a super chat from Dana who says Brian Laundrie copied characters from a book to a T. My ex-husband had this as his first onset of bipolar and psychosis at age 23, which, by the way, is when you're entering into that age, it's where some of these mental health disorders start to come out. And she said, I relate to all of this. I think we need to look at the next books in the trilogy to find him.
Bodily injury means physical pain, illness, or any impairment of physical condition.
Why is he? I guess he's reading it
So
to the
let's
other
see.
police officer.
He's not ill. He doesn't have an impairment of physical condition. And if he's not in pain, like how far do you want to go with this? Like, you know why the domestic assault code is there? It's there to protect people, especially the reason why they don't give us discretion on these things is because too many times women who are at risk want to go back to their abuser. They just wanted him to stop, and they don't want to have to be separated. They don't want him charged. They don't want him to go to jail, and then they end up getting worse and worse treatment, and then they end up getting killed. Mm-hmm. In no way, shape.
Let's just pause that right there. Mixed feelings, just so you know, we played that. That's at the beginning of the video. What did he just say? What did he say? They end up getting killed. That's why this code exists the way that it does. Let's see what he says next.
Can you stop for 1 second, Tyler, and I'll just speak to the books?
Yeah.
So he's a big fan of Chuck Palahniuk. Lullaby, craziest book ever. Oyster, Leaving Mona. It's The Frog and the Toad. That's with the bird dead on its back. His next one is Rant. Next one's Fight Club. The Invention of Sound. Invisible Monsters. It's not just 3. It's 5.
It's 5.
It's sick.
This statement the police officer is going to make next is somebody said he stepped down. I hadn't heard that he had stepped down, but I had heard that he was on leave, like in other words, taking a break. So he just said the reason this code exists is because the woman wants to go back to her abuser and then ends up getting killed. And then he said, however, in no shape or matter, let's see what he says.
The treatment, and then they end up getting killed. Mm-hmm. In no way, shape, or form that I can perceive does what happened here, a little slap fight between fiancés who love each other and want to be together, can I perceive that this is going to digress into the situation where he's going to be a battered man? Right. But then again, I don't have a crystal ball. So I was looking at I talked to the assistant chief to see if there's any way to just go less than than the full force domestic assault route. Right. And he says, look, I mean, you either go all the way or you don't. And it's like, okay, but under what circumstances can I not? And really the only time I cannot is if it doesn't fit. If it fits, then it's in the law, then you have to do it. So I went and I looked at the code for assault, because this is an assault enhanced with domestic assault. Utah Code assault. Now, you and I both know what it is, but think of how valuable it is to look it up and read it word for word, especially when what you're doing is going to get evaluated by a court who cares a lot about words. Words are there for a reason. Assault is an attempt with unlawful force or violence to do bodily injury to another. So did she attempt to do bodily injury to him?
She went to smack him.
Was it her intention to do him bodily injury? Now, that's what we have to find out, because it says bodily injury is that by definition, physical pain, illness, or any impairment of physical condition.
Well, he's got a swollen right eye.
We don't care what the result was. We care about the intent.
So we got to go find intent.
If she did not intend to cause him pain or illness or to cause him impairment of physical condition.
Was it intent and attempt, or intent or attempt?
When you're attempting to do something, you have to intend to do it. If I attempt to get a basketball through a hoop, I have to intend to do it. Intent is implicit with attempt.
Right.
Okay, so what was her intent? What was her intention? If you go ask her, what was your intention when you were slapping him? And she says, I wanted him to hurt or be ill or impair his physical condition, then there's nothing we can do.
Wow.
One way to word it might be, hey, when you slapped him, were you intending to cause him physical pain? And let's get rid of illness because that has nothing to do with it. Physical pain or impairment of his physical condition. Was that your intention? Is that what you were attempting to do? That's what it says right here, an attempt.
Right.
Were you attempting to cause him pain or an impairment of physical condition? Whatever she answers to that question will seal her fate. Because the only way you know what she was attempting to do is by asking her.
Right.
Set it up right. Set it up just right. Gabby, this is a very, very important question. How you answer this question is going to determine what happens next. But the only person who can answer this question is you. Think very hard before you answer the question. Do not quickly answer it. Think very hard. When you slapped him those times, were you attempting to cause him physical pain or physical impairment? Was that what you were attempting to do to him? What were you attempting to do? What was the reason behind the slapping and stuff? What was it you were attempting to accomplish by slapping?
I was trying to get him to stop telling me to calm down.
That doesn't sound to me like she attempted to injure him. It's your call.
And we've seen this on the first body cam footage quite a bit. This was a famous part of it where they're trying to figure out what happens. They're trying to set her up where they don't have to give any charges to her. But again, like we're all saying,
Say that I entirely believe it. She openly admitted to me earlier that she was striking him in the arm. He said that she was striking him in the arm. He said she was, and that's what caused him to get hurt. She said that she grabbed her. I might have this too mixed up probably.
No, she said that too, that she started distracting him by hitting him, and that he probably looked at her, and that's why the mark is on the window side. And she said it's her fault that he swerved because she was distracting him by hitting him. But she said she didn't try to hurt him, it wasn't malicious, she thought that he wasn't listening to her.
So assault is an attempt with unlawful force or violence to do bodily injury to another. The code for bodily injury, the definition says, bodily injury is infliction of pain or physical impairment or illness. So you can go. Now I'm recording, and society and the judges and everyone can judge me for this. I am looking at a 110-pound female and her fiance who have no means to be separated.
he says everyone can judge me for this.
More than
Tina, thanks for the super comment. You're saying, I agree with you. You're saying, hey, that was just one night they would be apart. Absolutely, that's one night they would have been apart. That's something I hadn't thought about. Like even if the roles would have been reversed, they probably would have just ended up back together. Maybe it would have scared them more, but again, we don't know. Another super chat is saying, I'm interested in hearing another perspective from a close family or friend to get more about the relational dynamic. I want to know that too. And my goodness, there's a lot to this. I'm glad we got to hear the conversation from the police officer, the female police officer, or park ranger's perspective. By the way, police officers that are park rangers are highly trained and qualified. They have to have at least a bachelor's degree, and they go through a high level of training. People keep commenting like, oh, she's a park ranger. She's not a police officer. They are law enforcement officers at a federal level. But again, she was saying, I hadn't heard her talk much other than a public statement that she made where she said that she privately spoke to Gabby and said that it was a toxic relationship and they needed to, needed to end the relationship. She's here saying basically, hey, we don't need to do anything that's going to cause charges to be filed against Gabby in this situation. Gavis, what's up, man?
Simple. Hindsight's 2020. Yeah, unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate. James, thanks for calling in. What are your thoughts? Very unfortunate.
I'm on. Okay.
You're on.
I've been trying.
Hey, I'm going to give you a second. You got to mute. You got to get off of YouTube if you're going to talk to us because it echoes, okay? So you got to exit out of YouTube and just be on our StreamYard. Other people are wanting to join the call. I put it in the comment section. Mute. You got to get off the YouTube. Okay. Looks like James trying to get that figured out. StreamYard. Other people are wanting to join the call. I put it in the comment section.
Sorry about that.
No worries, James. All you got to do is click off of YouTube. Just exit out of YouTube, and you'll be able to join with us. Matt, I got you on the call while James is trying to figure that out. Hopefully, you got your YouTube situation figured out.
Yeah. Sorry about that earlier, man.
No worries.
Great content. Love what you guys are doing there. And I think Gavis kind of pointed out earlier. He said that he only called, and I noticed it too. He only called the second witness that didn't see the whole thing. So the guy that initially called it in, he's the one that, saw probably him hitting her. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So they're not, the cops didn't get the whole story either. So I think if he would have called the witness that called it in and saw him hitting her, I think it would have been a different story.
What do you think, Gavis?
Absolutely. This cat has 9 lives. He could have gotten nailed when Brett rolled up on him. He could have gotten nailed. Hope she's not saying anything bad about me. The police chief, or the assistant chief, saying all or nothing. Could have said, "You make a your call."
Yeah.
How's a 105-pound girl, in his own words, gonna be a death threat to an outdoorsman like that?
Yeah, and that female park ranger, if that's what it is, there she does have a body cam on. So,
wow,
curious what that looks like.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting to see how she could have tried to settle Gabby down.
Yeah.
Or even get more insight, like, hey, this is actually, this is actually a toxic situation. Thanks, Matt, for calling in. I know you've been trying to get in on this. James, do you have it worked out?
Yeah, I think so.
No, you're still echoing. Situation. Thanks. It's just hard for us to listen whenever we have people echoing. So Jim, I'm going to take you off the screen for a second, give you a chance to figure that out even some more. And Detox, thanks for calling in. What are your thoughts?
Hey, what's going on, guys? How y'all doing tonight?
Good. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, man, it's a tragic situation from the looks of things. It looks like they tried to do her a favor. They did everything in their power to get her from catching charges and then end up backfiring on her completely. It's a sad situation. I think the cops were not trying to do a bad job. Obviously, they didn't have any means of separating them. So I think they were trying to work with what they had and do the best they could for that situation. Unfortunately, it ended the way it did. I think even if they would have separated them, they would have ended up back together within hours, if not the same night.
I mean, that's exactly the point that Tina was making earlier too. It's like, even if they were separated, if he was arrested or whatever, it was just a temporary separation. If they have to come back for a court date or do a Skype court date or whatever, some of the stuff they talked about, it's just a temporary separation. The hope would have been, and it's all hindsight 2020. I don't always say 2020. It's all hindsight 22, but you're right on the money about this. And so thank you, Detox, for calling in.
Hold on, I got one last thing to say. Unfortunately, I've been in that situation multiple times before with past girlfriends where it's always initiated by them, and then if I put my hands up, and then she gets injured, the cops pull us over. A lot of times the
twice before. I mean, I had a girl that jumped out of the driver's seat of a car after beating me up, and then I had while the car was moving. So those situations can be extremely volatile, and I mean, as you see, he was swerving because of what was going on between her and him. So cops a lot of times they don't want to take somebody to jail. It's not their intention to fuck up their relation, or excuse my language.
Man, can't have you cussing like that. It's a no cursing channel if you guys call in, just so you know.
Yeah, sorry about that. Like I said, a lot of times the cops are not initially trying to get the guy in trouble, but a lot of times even when the woman initiates, the guy gets in trouble anyways. So I think they were trying to avoid that and just do the best they could. But thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining. And we got just a couple more minutes left in this video, and I want to just, even though it's been tough for us to watch, tough for me to watch, let's just make it through the last couple seconds. We've already watched this part of it from the other body cam footage. Let's just see what happens.
Slight abrasions from her fingernails. I don't care if we use the actual letter of the law to not charge, but I also don't care because it literally does possibly make perfect sense to go full-on domestic assault and do the whole thing. This is your opportunity to make the decision.
Let's do this.
I support you either way.
Let's do this. Taking your advice, let me do a crime report on this. Won't charge right now. Won't cite her for it right now. We'll send it off to the county attorney, city attorney, because it is a me. Send it off to the city attorney. Let them screen it and make a decision.
If you send it to the city attorney and they strongly disagree with your decision and they throw a complete fit, you might hear about it in a very negative way.
Just quickly, Tyler. I also agree with the last caller. This is an incredibly hard situation. I was just looking at it from the point of how lucky Brian got here. This is just as crazy pressure for anybody to be under, and I would hate to have ever been put in this situation. So
yeah,
I think that needs to be said.
I think that's an important way to look at it, because whenever we're thinking about police officers in a town of 5,000 people who haven't had a murder situation in 15 or 16 years, which is the entire career of these police officers, there's no way that any of them have any experience with this unless they were serving somewhere else. And so for them, it's one of those situations where they're not used to being in it. And I'm sure they deal with tourists in heightened situations from time to time, but my goodness. Let's finish up on this if we can. It's only a couple minutes.
I'd rather be dinged for a decision I made than a decision I didn't make.
Especially if they think you were completely negligent in your decision. That's why give it to them. The only reason to give it to them is if you're not sure you have enough for something and you want them to decide if they have enough. So I support you. I'm not joking. If we need to go all the way to jail or whatever we need to do, all the way down to
3 years out.
Go ahead.
Sounds like they're listening to another call, or maybe instructions from someone. They all stopped and started to listen.
You got this?
I'm making this decision. I'm going to cite him. I'm going to go all through the first.
Would you feel more comfortable handling that guy?
Yeah.
Go handle that guy.
Do I handle that guy?
Go handle that guy. Okay. If you're more comfortable.
Well, it's 6 one way, half dozen the other.
It's up to you.
I mean, it's a headache whether I go left or it's a headache whether I go right.
Another option is to not charge them but separate them for the night. If they find themselves together again, what is it to you? You separated them. You provided for his safety. If he doesn't have enough sense to stay away and you got him separated, it's on him.
You can't babysit them all night unless they're in jail, so it's up to them to help them.
You can separate them and say, don't let this go off till tomorrow. If they don't let it go off and we hear about it, we'll hear about it.
They're camping in the park tonight, we'll let you know.
And if there's some fighting going on, you already was Mr. Nice Guy. You already gave him a chance. What you can't do by law is separate someone and say, if we hear from you again, we're going to arrest you. Because then if one of them really needs help, they may not call police and get help. The law says you cannot, literally, you may not say, If we get more calls with you guys tonight, one of you's going to jail. You can't threaten them like that. If it's true, because it will stop someone from wanting to call the police to get help. That makes sense? Right. So go full or nothing or in between and separate them and kind of give them the nod, the wink, like, hey, just stay separated. It's up to you. I'm going to go handle that. You got very capable help with you here, and I trust you.
Is that a new police officer? The one that was handling the
Call me if you have any problems.
situation, and then Brett's more of the senior police officer.
SOTTA, I'll separate. I'll be en route to that. Talk to him now.
And then he takes off for the other one, for the other call. And we saw that on the body cam footage that he went ahead and went back to the other. Does he say anything to Brian on the way out?
No.
I just want to say thank you guys for helping us. Appreciate you. You too.
It's heartbreaking. I want to apologize too if people are watching or whatever and there's foul language on the screen. I can't control anybody when they call in. I tell them not to do that. It's against my channel's policy. It's against my personal policy, and so I do apologize to anybody who's heard a foul language whenever it came on. And I know you want my channel to be trusted not to do that, so I'm sorry that happened. If you guys call in, we want you to call in, but please be respectful with it. It's just my channel. It's just something I want to do on my channel. Okay. Jim, you got it recorded out now?
I think so. Can you hear me all right?
We can hear you.
Okay. These on this right here, these guys are doing a lot of backseat psychologists. I think Brian read these guys like a novel. He played the good old boy routine and had them eating out of his hand, as far as I could see. And it worked for him. That's what everybody does when they're pulled over by the police. And I've been trying to get on for about three days now. You guys are doing a great job. I made a couple of notes here. I've been reading up on narcissists. And Brian, and also paranoid schizophrenics.
Right.
People who, hear voices. They hear voices. My brother says, they'll never be alone. But anyway, they have episodes to, some days they're just absolutely normal. My brother was a paranoid schizophrenic. And if you get them mad at you, you are in trouble. And I used to work with a guy who was an extreme narcissist.
Jim, I got to speed you along because there's more people trying to hop in, and I'm muting you because we're still echoing, but are you saying you think Brian is a narcissist, essentially?
If he's hearing voices, which is one thing they said, he probably went into an episode. And if you cross him, you're in trouble. Because it's all about him.
Yeah.
You can tell he's fuming and pretending to be, just a good old boy, minding his own business.
It's very possible that he was having an episode, and I think that schizophrenia is probably a likely diagnosis for him, because whenever you hear other people talk about him, they say he was hearing voices. He was somebody who was hearing voices. And so, Jim, thank you so much for calling in. We're still echoing on you. I wanted to give you a chance to say it. If we do another live stream tomorrow, maybe you can figure it out how to cancel the echo. But that's important to us because we want to make sure that we're not having a bunch of echoes on
just
here.
Just quickly, I'll speak to that, Tyler. He's a He's a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
Go spend the next 4 hours diving into his Pinterest and his Instagram account. You'll see it right away. But it'll take you 3 hours.
William, thanks for calling in. What's your thoughts?
I have a comment. I heard the incident y'all was talking about the other day with the Mary Piglet. I heard it was over a $60 bill.
I haven't heard what it was over. The people that were at the restaurant have been very tight-lipped about it. The workers of the restaurant haven't made any kind of statement or whatever. If you have a verified information of that from the Mary Piglet, I'd like to see it. But to this point, all the Mary Piglet that I've read that's been verified is they verified the fact that Brian and Gabby were there, and the rest of sort of the information was coming from Nina, who was somebody who was a wedding photographer and was in Jackson Hole at the Mary Piglet that day because she was there for a wedding.
Yeah, it was said that he was very aggressive towards the female staff. It was a lady. She has another YouTube channel, and she's, and she was talking about it. And she said that, so I didn't know if y'all could well, I did see a thing to where they said they were not going to comment because I don't know if maybe like the FBI is doing an investigation and that's why they're keeping tight-lipped. But that's what she said, and he just got belligerent over a $60 bill, which he was out of money.
I can't confirm that it was a $60 bill. I can just confirm by 2 eyewitnesses that he came out of the restaurant and he went back in 4 times in an irate mood. So that just kind of puts you where Brian's mindset was at.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if anyone here in the chat could go into a restaurant 4, 5 times and complain about a bill.
I mean, there's no way. And not only that, but they had to be, for 2 people to spend $60 at a Mexican restaurant, they would definitely be having to spend a lot of $60 seems kind of high for me, but I don't know what they might be. They're super hungry,
especially being vegetarian.
Yeah, I saw them eating salmon though, so I think they were working towards that lifestyle. William, any other thoughts?
I did hear a thing about where the mom was talking about their trip was getting very expensive because they were not. They were going out to restaurants, staying sometimes in hotels, and I heard that she was possibly sending Gabby some money, but I don't know about his parents. But the mom, with Gabby's biological mother, was saying that she did at times send her money because the trip was getting very expensive. So I don't know why they would be eating at restaurants when that when, especially like he's and like vegan food can be really expensive too.
Yeah. The Mary Piglet was not a vegan restaurant, but vegan food or raw food can be very expensive. And I know the dad bought her pizza, and she was staying at a hotel, and the Fairfield Inn is not the Motel 6 either. So,
oh no,
and no, but plane ticket
another
back
thing
to Florida.
Another thing too, if you check out the Bowen, where Brian was staying, the Bowen Motel, it was a $78 a night deal, and it was pretty trashy where dogs were not even allowed to stay. So when you're talking about Gavis, I appreciate the timeline because that is very helpful, and that may have been at the time to where he just wanted to get out because he's an outdoorsman. He was ready to get out. He wasn't ready to be cooped up in no cheap motel.
Yeah.
He would have been happy underneath the stars, underneath a tarp. What do you mean?
Yeah.
He didn't pay for that hotel.
So, but I'm saying in connection,
he didn't pay for that hotel either, because the Safe Haven, which it's one of those organizations, like a nonprofit organization that helps people in domestic disturbances, they paid for it for him.
Yeah, I understand that, but what I'm saying is the timeline where this incident at the Moonflower was to take place. He was ready to get kind of out of there, and so Does he leave it at some point?
Listen, this right here, just before they got stopped, they were just about to go straight up that road and grab water and probably head deeper into the park to another site where they could take pictures at night to look pretty or whatever. So that's what was happening here at this time. It's the exact time. There was no concern about money.
Yeah. William, thank you for calling in. We're going to add Pikachu to the call. Pikachu, what do you have to say? Pikachu, are you there? Pikachu Plaza, are you there? All right, we're going to remove them.
I see Chris Watts in the channel. They actually visited the exact same spot.
Really?
I have the timeline for that too.
Dana, we've added you to the call. Can we hear you? Yeah, I mean, like, some of this is what we're talking about.
Do you wanna see something interesting?
Yeah.
Take your flight tracker and go to Enterprise.
Enterprise, Nevada?
No, it's still in Florida. This is just where all the FBI helicopters are congregating right now.
Can you text me or send me the link?
Oh, it's just northern Florida. The start of the Appalachian Trail. So I want you guys to realize just how much your FBI guys do out there. So last night, I have it in my notes. I think it was about 11 o'clock. They had 30 helicopters all over the Appalachian Trail.
My goodness.
I've never seen it. It's insane. And you know they have the heat technology or whatever. So
the thermal imaging that they were talking about. If you don't mind sending me that, or if somebody can send me what he's talking about, I'd love to put it on the screen. I didn't find the flight tracker the other day, so I don't even know how to do that. Evan was the one who sent it to me.
Oh.
Benny, thank you for being with us. What do you have to say, man?
Very, very concerning news story. It's really captivated the world. I'm contacting in from New Zealand.
Yeah, thank you for watching from New Zealand. Thank you. It has captivated the world. Did you watch this body cam footage with us?
No, I've actually just tuned in the last few minutes now. So is this the new footage that's been released?
This is from the second police officer. The one it seemed like he had superiority over the other police officer, and we got to hear a different side of things, and it actually was really revealing. But again, everybody keeps saying hindsight's 2020 in this situation, but it's been heartbreaking. What are people in New Zealand saying? Find Brian.
It's tricky. We've got some sort of people that think that maybe she was the antagonist, and that she was abusing him, as she mentioned. But then again, there's other people saying that maybe he's the scumbag. But the fact that he's been on the run and that he's not giving himself in is it's quite revealing, really.
So you're not giving him the benefit of the doubt. You think he's guilty?
Well, what's he got? If you've got, what's he running from? If he's got a clean cut story with evidence and facts, what's there to run from unless there's something like foul play?
Yep, absolutely.
And also, that van looks terribly small. I can imagine that that would be quite uncomfortable, especially two people living in a van that small.
I think it would be very hard. I mean, there's a full-size bed back there, and sometimes they're getting out, and I like camping in a tent better than I do in a camper personally, and some of them were camping in a tent. So, hey, Benny, thank you for calling in. Any other final thoughts, or do you have any questions for Gavis?
I think this is a brilliant show. If you want to chat, make sure you subscribe and also share this broadcast.
Thank you so much. Dana, are you here with us this time? All right, Gavis. When do you want to go over the timeline? I don't think we have 16 hours to do it, but if there's a way we can do it in a shorter amount of time, I'd love to do it.
I don't think it's possible to do it in anything less than 16.
Okay.
Anything less than 16.
HA, if you're going to be on the chat, we want you on here, but you got to get off of YouTube, okay? You've got to close out of YouTube whenever we're on here. Hey, if you're watching the video, if you guys don't mind, hit the like button. It really helps us out. I've slowed down the chat to subscribers just because I was trying to catch some of the chats that were coming in, and then by the time I found them, it was too difficult for me to put them on the screen. So be a subscriber so we can have you on here, and we want to be able to see your comments since they were just scrolling through too fast for me to keep up with. Hey, AJ, what's up? We can have you on here, and we want to be able to... You've got to exit out of YouTube, okay? Because we're hearing an echo.
There's a question there. Do you think that if Gabby was arrested, that it would have saved her life?
I'm going to agree
99%.
There's a question there.
No, I don't think it would have saved her life.
Yeah.
I think that this plan
I'm going to agree.
Was already put into motion a long time ago.
I agree with you because I think it was a premeditated thing, and it's exactly what Tina made a super chat earlier saying. She was like, "Hey, there's no proof or evidence of this." BA, thank you for joining. What do you have to say?
So, what I'm thinking, my question is we talk about like mental disorders, and we talk about where his mindset was. Do you think that there's any possibility that in the moment of being secluded with somebody, when you're that close to somebody, you can, things can happen that are just kind of in the heat of the moment or passionate. Do you think there's a possibility that he might have done something in seclusion that in the moment you kind of lose track of like societies around you? There's repercussions to what you might do if you go overboard at all. And then after that happened, it sunk in, and he bailed back to Florida and went totally silent. And we talk about like
I just want to I want to answer your question because you asked a question and I want to answer it. I don't think that happened. I think that he knew what he was doing. I think that from a pastoral perspective and a Christian perspective, I look at some of the issues that he had with what books he was reading. It's a collection of the books he was reading, the artwork that he had, the dark and twisted world that he was living in. I think it was in his mind. My opinion, it was demonic. And anybody that's watching that's dabbling in things that are borderline demonic, you need to step away from them. People believe in angels, but they don't want to believe in demons. Okay. You can't believe in one without the other. Both of those things are real, and you can have deliverance from the attacks of what I call the enemy. You can have deliverance from it. You can be set free from it, and he wasn't set free. In my opinion, when we research what we research about him, and Gavis can confirm from his studies of it, it was dark, wasn't it, Gavis, what he was into?
Yeah, always. And I have to be careful when I talk because Gabby had a lot of those same interests as well. So be careful how far you go each way, right? So
and do you now I my other question is if it was in the books and it was something that was planned, and I mean for him to take it that far to get to where he was, and I've seen the theories on the books and in the character that he was trying to portray. Is that couple that went missing, is that something tied into like what his plan was? Do you feel like that's a part of what he was doing, what he might have done?
I've said that from the beginning, that I think there was a connection. I wasn't clear how big of a connection it was, but I've said from the beginning.
Yeah, I really do think it was very much, very, very, very much. And there's also potential of a fourth in the ultimate end game of what Brian was potentially after. So I'm trying to put together the connection with the geologist that was found out there as well, but I can't quite link it together yet.
That was the guy that was missing an arm, right? Oh.
Thank you, BA, for calling in today. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
HA, I've added you back. I hope we're not echoing this time. If we're echoing, I'm gonna have to kick you. I'm sorry. We just can't understand what's happening when that's happening.
Hi.
There's no echo. Great. I think you got it figured out. What's your thoughts and questions?
Well, so many this case has taken my mind, so deep. Um, I was Gabby's age. I was in her situation. I was in sitting in a patrol like she was.
Yeah.
I was a victim of an abuser husband. He has made my life miserable for the last, I don't know, 15 years. So this case has taken me so deep that I can't sleep. Well, I sleep, but I am like figuring out what's going on, what is the relationship with the other two girls. That I think absolutely they need justice with the geologist, with the other guy who was found dead, you know. But when I see that guy, that LB, I don't pronounce his name. I'm sorry for my foreign accent. I have I have not dyslexia is another thing. It's another thing,
Yeah, it's okay.
Um, aphasia. I have
Yeah.
aphasia, and well, I appreciate your channel. I want to tell you, Taylor, that the Lord is my shepherd. That
Yeah.
Jesus is always being with me,
Mhm.
always.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be in this planet if it wasn't for Him and for God, but I'm Catholic.
Yeah.
And I was raised Catholic. I went to a Catholic school. I don't know. This case touched me, and I studied journalism. And I'm not gonna be in peace until this guy is apprehended. For example, I appreciate very much the insight of the timeline of Gabby's.
Yep.
I think it was very impressive, and he took me to a threshold that I don't appreciate, which is the dark world of literature.
Yeah.
And I was doing my research in those books, in the Trinity and
The,
everything else.
those books are definitely very dangerous. And I'm going to go ahead, and we got other people waiting, HA, but thank you for calling in. And we appreciate people from wherever they're calling in from. I think you had a good perspective on things. And I think part of the reason that she's connected to this case is the reason that a lot of people are connected to this case is because they've been in situations where they've been on the other side of some level of DV or SA or narcissistic abuse. In other words, they've been in toxic relationships. And like she was saying, had it not been for the grace of God in her life, maybe she wouldn't have ended up out of the situation that she was in. And I want, if you don't know that today, I want you to know that there's hope. There's hope in Jesus. And what she was saying was Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leads me beside still waters. And he's with you. If you don't know it, you have a God who loves you and is with you. I can just promise you that God loves you and he's with you. If you're in a bad situation, he'll give you the grace to get out of it if you call on him and lean on him. Okay. Hey, David, thank you for calling in. How can we help you? What's your
You're
thoughts?
welcome. Yes, I'm calling from Israel, and I've been following this case since it developed, since it originally started. I want to say that I'm somewhat different from most of your viewers. I do not believe that Brian is the culprit in Gabby's death. I really sense that he loved her very, very much, and for all that we know, Gabby may have been accosted by complete strangers while she sat alone in the Spread Creek camping area between the 27th of August and the 29th of August. We do not know that Brian Laundrie committed this crime. And from watching videos of body language experts, one man by the name of Chase Hughes has said in his observations that everything that is to say Brian, was stressing about is about social judgment and fear of him being perceived negatively, receiving negative social attention. So that might explain why he has decided to go out of sight, that he's now evading law enforcement officials, because he feels pressured perhaps by what he is hearing spoken about him over the media with respect to Gabby's disappearance. And a person who has not really committed a crime like that might feel very pressed to just opt out, leave the scene. So this all will come out if he's apprehended by the police and he is interrogated. But I do not believe personally, and I know that I'm going against consensus here, because by most of the comments on this thread, most people believe that he committed the crime, but I do not think that at this stage. That's what I wanted to say.
You're definitely hugely in the minority on this, I will say. And as people are writing in the chats, there is one point we need to make. He's not even been named as a person of interest in the homicide of Gabby. And so, I mean, I'm going to agree with 99% of people who are in the chat. I'm going to say, yeah, he's guilty and his parents know about it. David, what, by the way, I'm an American who stands with Israel, just so you know. And I think that the Bible teaches us that personally. But what kind of career do you have?
Okay, I'm Jewish. I'm a convert to Judaism. I converted in 1984. And I was married to a Yemenite Jewish woman. And I have a daughter who is Gabby's age, by the way, who is Gabby's age. And but I practiced Judaism, and I lived for a while in the States. I lived for a while in Yemen, and I'm content here with my situation. I translate, by the way, from Hebrew into English as a profession, and that's what I do.
Oh, awesome. Well, I do a bit of translating myself, but I'm sure not as good as you. I just look at what the Bible says and try to translate. David, thank you for calling in today. Hey, Marvin the Martian, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support of the channel. Today is the very first day that we've done super chats, and yeah, Gavis, I know that was a really polarizing thing that David got on here and say, but I think
it's important to say that though, because there is that percentage of people that do believe that this just seems too crazy. It seems unbelievable. And if you do the deep dive, like I've asked, others to do, go look at Brian Bizarre Design Instagram, go look at Gabby's, go look and try to make your own connections. That's kind of what we're doing here, is trying to do some legwork for the FBI, really. Draw your own conclusions. I'm not saying one way or the other, but you obviously know that I've put together this timeline and spent countless hours now putting this all together. And you can just see, you're looking at there. That's a wolf in sheep's clothing right there, guys.
Mona or Dana, are you there with us? Mona, we're gonna add you in just a second. Dana, can you hear us? We can't hear you. You might need to adjust your mic. Mona, thanks for calling in. What are your thoughts?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you for calling
Fantastic. Okay, at 11 a.m., Brian and Gabby had a fight in front of the Moonflower. The cashier was one of the lesbian couple that were murdered approximately 36 hours later. When the police dropped Brian off at the Bowen Motel, he was left having been dropped off by the police approximately 2 blocks from the Moonflower. So if he had any crazy belief in God talking to him, he might have heard God telling him to go back to the Moonflower. So he goes back to the Moonflower, probably in a pretty good mood, not looking to kill anybody, but talks to that cashier and finds out where their campsite is, which was a walking distance away, because he needed to find free places where he and Gabby could park their van. That's the number one priority when you're a van camper. And she knew an isolated place to camp. They were purposely isolated because they didn't want to be near other campers, so that when they were shot several times in both the front and the back, the shots were not heard by anybody. That's how isolated they were. So if he decided to go up to their campground just in a friendly way, they would not be happy, especially the male portion, the male type partner in the lesbian relationship would be very unhappy to see Brian coming close to the female girl who was very, very pretty and would really deeply resent Brian moving in on their territory. As they discussed, the two lesbians discussed the problem of the creepy camper when they went down on Friday the 13th, approximately, let's say, 8 or 10 hours before they were shot. They walked they walked back to Moab, to Woody's Tavern, and they were heard talking about this creepy camper. So it's my belief that Brian was the creepy camper because of the coincidence of having been dropped off by the police 2 blocks from the Moonflower, which is where the problem began.
There's some of what you were saying that your times and different things you said were not accurate, but I don't think it changes the point that you're making. So I'm not, we have a timeline, we've gone through it, and Gavis has studied the timeline. Gavis?
I believe the creepy camper is referring to somebody else the previous day. I think that Brian is not the creepy guy.
You think the creepy camper came in on Wednesday, not on Thursday?
No, the creepy camper would have come in after Kylan got off of work, or the day before, so it would have been Tuesday. You're
That's
right now.
on Tuesday. Help me out here.
Oh, hold on. I'll go back to the timeline, but I just wanted to make that clear that it's not.
Why he's going to
my timeline? The creepy guy is somebody else.
Yeah,
I understand. Just can you clarify? Can you clear up my timeline?
I will.
Marvin,
So
thank you for your super chat, and I just want to read it. I think all the sightings are bogus. I don't think he was ever at home. I think the Utah one or more killed both of them in setting Brian up. So thank you for your comment. I think we're going to talk about the timeline, and that's going to bring some clarity to that statement.
So Kylan was not working the day that they went to Woody's Tap House. They were at Woody's Tap House from 6 to 9:30 on August 13th. She and Beck were at Woody's Tavern in Moab, where they were semi-regular customers. They reportedly told their friends that night there was a creep staying next to them. So on the 12th, that's when the creep was camping next to them. And you've got Brian on video right here being arrested or talked to by the police. And we have pictures to support this because we know in the morning, Brian was up in here taking pictures early in the morning at like 6:30, 7 o'clock. They then went back to the Moonflower. And then that's where shortly after that, so they spent almost 5 hours at the Moonflower. And then this arrest took place from 4:45 until 6:01 when they dropped Baldo off at the Bowen Motel.
That agrees with my timeline. I agree.
Yeah, no, I know, and you're absolutely right. But Brian is not the creep.
I know, but you have to offer some evidence. You said my timeline is off. My timeline agrees with your timeline.
So
the domestic disturbance at 11
My
a.m.
theory is that you are right. That Gabby and Kylan at some point during the Moonflower probably connected in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
Brian was looking for a place to stay, but this is the night of the 12th.
Yes.
They were separated, but we don't know for sure that Brian and Gabby are actually separated. We just know that he's dropped off at the hotel.
That's right.
Gabby, remember, after this, is going to drive back into Moab, and the police officer is parked right in front of the motel, the exact same way Gabby's going to come back in. Gabby might have seen that Brian was parked there, or the police officer was there, and moved the van into that parking lot, and they didn't separate for the night. We don't know.
That might be true, but it also might not be true.
Exactly. I agree.
So it's equally possible that Brian, when he got to the Bowen Motel, walked over to the Moonflower and talked to that lesbian girl on the 12th, the night of the 12th.
But they were seen at Woody's Tap House on the 13th, which is the next night.
I agree with that. Yes, I know. That's what I'm saying. Brian walked up to the campsite. First, he found out where the campsite was when he went to the Moonflower at approximately 6 or 6:30 p.m. on the 12th. That was how he learned where the campsite was. He walked the 2 blocks from the Bowen Motel to the Moonflower.
No, Kylan was off half an hour early, so no.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's what I was telling you, Mona, about your timeline. You were saying that it was at 11 a.m. The domestic disturbance happened like at 3:39, according to police reports, well, that's what time the call came in. And Kylan was already off at work. However, they told the other police officer that they were in the store for 6 hours that day, from 9 to 3 or whatever, and they were there likely working on stuff. So it doesn't change your theory of what you're
Brian just told
saying.
these officers that he was there from.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay,
So
but
Mona, thank
unless
you for calling in. And what you're saying is totally plausible. He could have been the creepy guy. He could have went out to their campsite. However, another thing too, Mona, was that there was, and you can watch an interview of Kylan's dad. There was a wedding within like a very short distance of this situation, and so the shots would have been heard. It's like less than 100 yards away, where the women were shot at, and so they would have heard it. Nettie, thank you for the super chat. 2 witnesses came forward, but that was at a different restaurant. It wasn't at Woody's Tavern. It was at the Mary Piglet. Charles is saying, does the body site fit the route Gabby suggested that Brian took on foot after leaving Gabby's body?
the shots occurred on the 13th, August the 13th.
It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. It doesn't
No,
fit because they were at Woody's Tap House.
No, they talking about when they got back from Woody's. Isn't it true? Don't we know that they were killed after the 12th, between the 12th and the 18th?
No, they were seen at Woody's Tap House on the 13th between 6
Right,
and
right.
9:30.
Right, they were killed between the 13th and the 18th.
Definitely, yes.
So they could have been killed on Friday the 13th or the 14th at 2 a.m.
They could have been killed the night of the 13th.
No, the night of the 13th or the morning of the 14th.
Yes,
In the middle of the night after they came back from Woody's Tavern.
yes.
By the creepy camper.
Not by the creepy camper.
Why not?
Because it doesn't fit, and I think that that's when Brian got him.
Well, I think Brian was the creepy camper.
Well, then we disagree.
I know, but I'm just asking, why do you think the creepy camper did not shoot them?
Because when Kylan and Crystal are at the bar at Woody's Tap House, that's the night that she could have potentially died, right?
Yes.
So how do you talk about a creepy guy at your campsite? Brian's not there. He's not there on the 12th.
I think he was. I think he walked up from the Bowen Motel to the campsite on the 12th.
I mean, Mona, thank you for calling in and appreciate your viewpoint. I love having multiple viewpoints. It's what she's saying is possible and plausible, totally. Not likely, in my
Not really,
opinion.
because we have pictures of them on the mountain right up the road from here in the morning on the 12th. Then Brian even states that I was at the Moonflower pretty much the whole rest of this day. So
Yeah.
when did Brian have time to go check
Creep.
out this camp?
Yeah, creep around.
Previously on the 12th, he's
The ol-
already got a full schedule.
I think
Can't
Gavis,
do it.
the only theory that would support it is if Gabby stayed and worked on the website and he didn't, and then didn't offer up that he wasn't
But
there.
Gabby's
also.
in the pictures on the mountain. She's on the rock. About 35 minutes from here is where the pictures were taken that are posted on their Instagram.
Yeah.
So you
I
got to
get
go
what
by
you're saying,
evidence here.
but-
I'm not conjecturing anything. Like there is just no chance Brian can be
But
in
the
two
photos are
places
not
at once.
time stamped either, so we don't know the exact day and time photos were taken. Hey, thank you for calling in. What are your thoughts or questions?
Hello.
Hey.
I want to talk about Gabby for a moment. And everybody just stop.
I don't
My
know if
thoughts
you.
are
I don't know
this.
if you. I don't know if you
I
can
live
call.
in Wyoming.
Hang on. I don't know if you can call my channel and say everyone just stop. Like I don't know if it works like that. So we'll give you a minute and then you got to be brief with it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hello. I live in Wyoming. It's a very constant place. And to have this happen here has been horrifying.
I would say, yeah.
I feel her spirit in many ways. I've been there. I've been to Coulter Bay. I've been to Yellowstone, and it's horrifying to think of what happened to this girl in my state of Wyoming.
Yeah.
Do I feel that he did it? Yes.
We can't feel. We have to go on facts and evidence and eyewitness accounts.
By the way, I did not remove her. Her connection cut out, just so everybody knows. She or maybe she hung up. I don't know, but she was on there and was off. And I promise you, I didn't remove her. I was willing to hear her out. Hey, Frank, thank you for calling in. What's your thoughts?
Hi, I just find it interesting that we've heard a lot from Gabby's friends, but we have heard nothing from Brian's friends. And it kind of makes me wonder, did he have any friends?
Yeah.
No, he didn't. He
We
literally had no friends.
He went through high school with no friends? Wow.
He went to high school in New York. He lives now in Florida.
Oh, okay. And nobody in New York has come forward with anything to tell us if they thought he was mentally ill?
The only time that anybody said anything from him in his personal life was his ex-girlfriend. And she made a comment and said, I'm not surprised that this was happened. You were narcissistic and toxic when I was dating you. And that's the only statement from anybody that's known him has came out and said it all.
Wow. You know, having no friends is a lot like having a totally clean browser history. You know, it's like, you know, it's highly unusual. So, well, I guess if he was like that, he didn't have any friends.
So do you think that he was guilty?
Definitely.
What about Kylan and Crystal? Is he guilty in that?
50-50 chance, honestly. He may not have had the time to do it. Most murders have a motive. I don't know that he would have killed a total stranger. He might have out of an act of desperation, but I'm less certain about that.
Yeah. Thank you, Frank, for calling in.
My pleasure.
Janet, I want to read your super chat. Heartfelt thanks for keeping your channel clean, courteous, and accurate. New sub and first donation. God bless. Thank you so much, Janet, for your support. It's my first day ever having super chats. And so the fact that you guys are able to bless me with that way, it just means so much. And the fact that you guys are involved with this channel, it means a lot to me too. And so I really appreciate your support in that way. And let's see, Kate, thank you for joining. What are your thoughts?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hey, Gavis.
Yep.
It's Artemis. So I just wanted to clarify the photos that were taken at the arches. She said, or he, depending on who was writing it, right?
Right.
Did say that they were up there early on Monday. Monday was the 9th, not the 12th or the 13th when they were posted.
Which, what are you referring to? Which day in?
All of the arches, all the photos of the arches. They were up at the arches Monday on the 9th, starting at 7 a.m. That's what she was writing.
Yeah, there's a couple of discrepancies when you go back that far as to exactly who was posting what.
Right. And who knows?
You can figure this out. This is logic and this is data. You just have to go through Brian's stuff. You have to go through Gabby's stuff. You have to start anchoring things down. And yeah, it does. It gets incredible.
Well, and I've seen some of the things and that people have said about like, oh, you know, he writes this way, she writes that way. But then like you look at some of his earlier posts and they were very short, very sweet. And some of her much earlier posts where they were saying, oh, that's definitely her, that's definitely her. She was still using like emoticons and, you know, the emojis and things. So I think it's really difficult to tell. I also think that they're spending so much time together. He's influencing her. They're feeding each other's psychosis. And to some degree, I personally think they're like real life incarnations of Harley and the Joker. I know people are going to say I'm nuts, but I think that he was crazy, but in a very like specific way, in a very linear way, in a very like charming and charismatic way.
That's what they say
Whereas
about Ted Bundy too, right?
Very much so, yeah. And she, I mean, you can see she, every time somebody talks to her, she starts crying. You know, even if they're being nice to her and they're like trying to work with her, you know, she just like is full on breakdown. And I understand that some of that's fight, you know, fight or flight, but I think that we know she had some darkness. We know she did. So I think, again, spending that much time with Brian, I think that darkness grew and grew. And maybe at first she thought that she could save him from his darkness, but it just made her darker. And, you know, like as evidence, she admitted to hitting him. And Gavis nailed it when he was like, she did a number on him, man. So I don't know. I didn't see the marks on her arms though. Well, the thing that I saw on her arm was her tattoo, which is
Her
black.
arm was red. I could see it, and we actually
It
mentioned
was
from the
red.
other body,
Oh, okay.
from the other body cam footage. Yeah, I mean it's something that I think we had brought up more than one time, but you could tell that something had gone on there.
Yeah. Well, and he admitted to, you know, grabbing her, pushing her, and that could have happened when she was climbing through the window too. But I don't think this is as cut and dry as she was an angel and he was a devil. I think, you know, she was being manipulated and twisted, and at a certain point she was like, dude, I can't even do this anymore. And just like Joker did to Harley Quinn, he put an end to it.
Thank you for calling in, Kate.
You guys have a good night.
Wow.
Tyler, do you mind speaking to the fact that I'm a guest here? I see quite a few hates coming my way, but a lot of good positive stuff. I'm not here for any money at all. I'm just so deep dive invested in this that
Yeah. I only know Gavis from 3 or 4 days ago whenever he hopped on the stream with me, and I enjoy having him on the stream because he's really educated about this and has great conjecture. I don't know him personally other than almost any interaction we've had has been on the stream. We've had 1 or 2 phone calls, but he's a guest on here, and in my opinion, he's a great guest to have. We want him on here because he's done a lot of research and he's looked into this stuff and he's contributed a lot of valuable information. And honestly, we wouldn't be as far down this road without him. And so we do appreciate you, Gavis, and the work that you're doing. A lot of people are showing support for you on here, and even people tweeted me and sent me emails about you know what you've done. So is there anything you want to shout out? I know you have a Twitch account or whatever, but
no.
Okay. Well, I think this is a good stopping point for the evening. I don't know what else we're going to be able to dive into. We'll be back on. Or I'll be back on. And Gavis is welcome to. Gavis has a free invitation to join anytime I'm on, and he knows that. Anytime he wants to come on, I tell him he can come on. Gave him a free invitation to come on, and I just want to remind you guys that to me, Jesus is the hope of the world. And if you don't have a relationship with him, I made a video talking about a story in the Bible where a son goes missing as a lost son. I challenge you to go to my channel and watch that video called "The Story of the Lost Son." It talks about how a lot of times, you know, we don't understand it, but we feel this disconnect from a story that Jesus is painting, a father, a heavenly father, and he's actually running towards us when we've been running away from him. And we have a God, I want you to know this, is running towards you. And there's great room for lots of different views in Christianity and in perspective with the kingdom. So I just want to invite you to do that. So thank you for being part of our stream tonight. Gavis, any final words?
This is just such an interesting story, guys. And once you start diving into it, it just has so many layers to it. I bet you I've probably only eaten about 500 calories in the last week and slept very, very little. It's unbelievable. Every place I turn, there's more information, and you've got to make the timeline perfect, and it has to fit. I mean, last night, I was furious when I saw the photos of the rock that these guys were just at right up here the day before, and the shadows were wrong. So then I'm like, well, they couldn't have been at the Moonflower when Brian said. Brian said himself they were there from 9 until 3.
9 to 3, yeah.
So then I went and corrected it, and I came up with 11:30. But then your guest called in and said they were there at 11.
Yeah.
So I shaved 2 hours off of myself, and I was livid last night. If you were in my Twitch channel, you would have seen a lot less clean version of me than you see here with Tyler.
Thank you for being a clean version of yourself on this chat with me. Thank you for respecting the channel, Gavis. It means a lot to me. I can tell that you do that. One final thought from Teresa. Thanks for the super chat. Dog knocked on the door to help find their son, and they called the police. What does that tell you? It tells me a lot. It does. It tells me a lot. So, all right. Thank you guys for joining the stream. I encourage you.
I just saw one quick question. Gavis, why are they looking in Enterprise? Enterprise is the entrance to the Appalachian Trail.
Yep. Yep. Why is the FBI looking? It's the entrance, Alex, because it's the entrance to the trail. So, okay. I encourage you guys, go watch my video right now if you can. The Story of the Lost Son. Thank you for being on the stream with us today.